I've hit live.
Welcome to Trash Talk with Grace and Hawk, episode 2. I'm coming at you from beautiful, well, mostly beautiful, sunny San Diego. It's a nice day out here. We're back out, we're picking up trash. I feel a little bit bad because you guys really don't see the best side of anywhere I go. You only see the worst part where the most trash is. But here we are, found this little waterway right here that actually empties out into San Diego Bay, like just a couple hundred meters that way. It's like not even half a mile. You can literally see the ships docked in the harbor, and all this trash is going straight into the bay unless we pick some of it up today. So that is the plan. If you guys missed it last time, this is a call-in talk show slash podcast where I pick up trash while I talk with you good people, as well as a weekly co-host. So this week, I want to welcome to the Trash Talk stream Justin, otherwise known as Yahooligan in these comments, a great friend of the channel. How you doing, Justin?
Pretty fantastic. I'm super happy to be here, helping you pick up trash. If anybody says anything different, we'll have words. But I'm helping you pick up some trash too.
And
In
speaking
spirit.
of, let's go ahead and get the first piece here. So I'm giving a little bit of priority right now to some of the plastic items that are the closest to ending up actually in the waterway. Because like I was saying, this empties out into the bay just like right over there. So getting some of the items that are going to be like the sources for lots of microplastics, as well as just being plastic and non-biodegradable themselves, are going to be the highest priority here, preventing them from going into the water. Um, so yeah, thank you very much, Justin, for joining today. This is super exciting for me. I've got a lot of updates since last week's episode, the first episode of Trash Talk. And if I understand correctly, we've already got some callers waiting on the line.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we're gonna bring up some people for you to have a discussion with while you pick up trash. Hence, trash talk. Real quick
Yeah.
before I introduce our first guest here, just want to remind everybody if you're out there watching and you like what Grayson's doing over here, feel free to like and subscribe. Actually, it's kind of mandatory. We kind of recommend. It's not just a recommendation. We insist that you like and subscribe, and then also a little bit later on, we'll be looking for some super chats from people, and we're going to name our trash bags. So if you guys can think of any fun names, give our trash bags before Grayson ties a
Oh, look
knot
at
in them.
that.
That'd be great.
We've got our very first. Oh man, it's fighting me. It's a pair of underwear over here.
Oh boy,
It's under a rock too.
underwear
Look at
under a
that.
rock.
Nice dirty dungies. The
Now, well,
thank you
now,
very much, Justin, though, for doing the much needed channel maintenance there, because I'm already picking up trash. I'm already in the middle of it right over here, and I really do appreciate that. And also just letting you know what Justin said. As soon as this first trash bag is all the way full, you guys are actually going to get to name it. So basically, whoever gave the most recent highest super chat gets the privilege of naming our trash bag. And if there are no super chats yet, then the privilege goes to Justin, our lovely co-host, who will then get the privilege of deciding the name. And Justin, you can go off of any funny comments, anything in the live chat, anybody suggesting, or you can just come up with one yourself.
all right.
If nobody has sent in a super chat by the time that this very first trash bag is full.
So no pressure is what you're saying then. Cool.
No
All right.
pressure at all.
All right.
And I
Well,
also, I know that we've got some callers, and I want to get to those callers first, but I'll just tease a little bit. I do have a pretty big update since the last Trash Talk episode. A lot has happened, and we got to talk about it at some point. So I imagine at some point there will be a lull between callers where we're not getting anybody, and Justin and I can talk about it then. So you're gonna have to stay tuned. But really,
absolutely.
the only update I'll give you right now is that I had a ton of freaking fun last week. I mentioned that like since college, so basically like 10 years now. Holy shit, I wow, when you say it out loud. But yeah, so for 10 years now on some weekends, you know, when I'm feeling particularly angsty or something, I'll go out and pick up some trash, feel good. It's a nice physical activity on the weekends, makes you feel good. But the amount of trash that we picked up last week for that first inaugural episode of Trash Talk, that was a new personal best for me. That was like 10 bags of trash.
Wow.
And usually I get around 4 to 6, and then I'm exhausted. And I gotta say, Trash Talk last week was so successful, not just because of all the trash we picked up, but because I felt great that whole time. It's like talking with you guys, having the encouragement of the people in the live stream that were like, I mean, you guys are hilarious. You guys are making me laugh with all your funny trash bag names. And it just made the time go so quick. And it's like occupying my brain while my body was picking up all this trash. It just made the time go by so fast, and it was actually really fun and enjoyable, and that was exactly what I was hoping it would be. So like, thank you everybody last week that came through and like made that such an enjoyable experience for me, because like I said, the goal for this trash talk, the goal for these conversations is to have interesting conversations with interesting people that help entertain me while I'm picking up all this dang trash.
I mean, it's a fantastic concept for a program. It also, the cheeky title of the show's Trash Talk, really just kind of works and fits well together. And I wish you all the best, Grayson, with the success of this show. Uh, Not just because it's entertaining, but I mean, you're out there doing something that I think all of us would agree that like we've probably all thought about doing it or talked about doing it or wish we had time to do it. But there you're just out there doing it, which is, really pretty awesome as far as I'm
Well, I
concerned.
mean, everybody that's a part of this stream is helping me do it, right? I mean, like,
Right.
I definitely wouldn't be able to be out here for as long or be as energetic about it if it wasn't for all the encouragement from like the viewers, the people I'm talking with, and yeah, the name of the show, Trash Talk, was I was thinking that more people would call in that would disagree with me and want to, argue with some of my positions, but last week we didn't really have any theist callers, so I don't know if it's just like, I mean, I used to have these open mic streams and we would have theist callers come in and disagree. I don't know if they're just, where they at?
Well, I might change this week. So why don't we move on and get our first guest on the stage here?
Let's do
Um,
it. I'm ready.
so the first person we have here is going by the name of Not Sure. And Not Sure would like to discuss free will with you, Grayson.
Oh, very exciting conversation. Hello,
Hello,
not
hello.
sure.
You can call me Arsen.
Arson?
Yes. So I'm Yafan from Ukraine. I'm watching you for a longest time, maybe since maybe few of the first videos, and yeah, really enjoying it. So I probably will be the first guy to disagree with you, and my topic is free will. If I'm understanding correctly, you are taking the position that free will is not possible. And so,
That is,
sorry. I wanted to add a disclaimer that my English is my third language, and I'm speaking very badly. So if you not understanding something, or if you
I
have questions,
appreciate,
then
I
please ask for clarifications.
I appreciate the disclaimer, although I don't think that you necessarily needed to make the disclaimer. I could have guessed, but I think your English is perfectly fine. I'm just going to put in my AirPods so I can hear a little bit better to do so. Um, but I can hear you. I can understand you just fine. And I will tell you my position on free will, where basically, in order to break this sort of deterministic causal chain, right? Where you just have one molecule interacting with one molecule, interacting with the next molecule in a sort of causal chain, which goes on in the brain. And our brain is the generator of all of our decisions. To me, I don't understand at what point free will could enter into the equation. And for me to think about what it would mean for free will, I know that there are compatibilists out there. I know it's a popular philosophical position. I just don't understand it. I'm happy. I have an open mind if anyone can explain how compatibilism makes sense. But when I think of it, in order to have free will, I would think that this, you know, chain of interacting molecules would have to be disturbed in some way to where one molecule, instead of just having, A to B to C, straightforward deterministic chemical reactions, would have to act otherwise in order for us to have some sort of free will. Now, I think that this is like a physically kind of incoherent idea. That's why I think free will is physically an incoherent idea. Is that sort of what you were understanding my position of free will to be?
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought based on several conversations you had. So, if you allow, I can explain my position.
Okay.
It slightly differs. I will start by saying that I think the main problem is the language that we are using and
Okay.
definitions, not the topic itself. So often people disagree because of definitions, but
So
not about the topic itself.
let me just give you a definition for how I think about free will then. I think about free will as basically like my will would be free if I could have chosen otherwise. Like if I picked black boots to wear this morning, but I could have picked my brown boots. And so that feels like free will because, hey, I could have picked the brown boots. But then when we actually, look under the hood and see what was happening in my brain, I do not think it is the case that I could have chosen differently.
Okay, that we will discuss. I think it's my turn to give my definition.
Sure.
So I compose this definition. It's from a dictionary. Uh, uh, Free will is an emergent property of complex systems where a cause originates within the system itself rather than being imposed by external forces or remote control. Free will exists in the same way as other emergent properties do, just as water is wet while individual molecules are not. It also, important part of my definition is that it can be measured in degrees of freedom. More complex system have higher number of possible choices or behaviors, and also this definition does not say anything about violating physical laws, but rather it distinguishes between actions caused internally versus externally. If you
Yeah.
have
So
questions, we can discuss it.
yeah, I've heard a similar kind of definition before. It's just that to me, it it doesn't really make sense to call that free will, and it seems like it sort of, and I want to kind of discuss some of these edge cases because to me it seems like something like a thermostat, right?
Yeah,
Does a
I have.
thermostat have free
I have.
will under your definition? I would like to hear why
Yeah,
not.
that's. I wanted to talk about thermostat exactly. So,
Perfect.
because as I said, free will can be measured, and also like different systems, not just humans can have free will. Uh, and by my definition, free will is measured in degrees of freedom. So thermostat has 1 degrees of freedom. It can switch on and switch off based on selected temperature, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it has 1 degrees of freedom. Uh, other other devices can have more degrees of freedom. Animals have more, and humans have like a lot of more because of number of neurons.
So you're just saying that at some point there's a certain threshold of the number of
No,
degrees
it's
of
not a
freedom.
threshold. It's just a slider or gradient.
So you're saying that the thermostat is like conscious or like has free will, rather,
No,
not
no,
conscious, sorry.
not
It has
exactly.
free will just to a
Free will.
very limited degree.
Yeah, 1 degrees of freedom.
This is interesting to me. So what about something that has a lot of degrees of freedom, like I don't know, the surface of a black hole or something? Would that be
I'm not a physicist,
would
but
that
I
have
don't
the
think it
most,
has a lot of
what's that?
degrees of freedom. I'm not a physicist, but I don't think black holes have a lot of degrees of freedom. I think they have only three properties.
So is your claim that human brains have the most degrees of freedom of any physical system known?
Let's say on Earth.
What did you say?
Let's say on Earth.
On Earth.
Yeah.
Okay. And is this something that is necessitated by your idea of what free will is, or do you have like a basis to conclude that human brains have the most degrees of freedom of anything on Earth?
I think it's based on number of neurons and connections. Yeah, of course, there are animals that have more neurons, and it's actually hard to say if it directly corresponds to number of neurons and connections, or it has something to do with
I mean, there
a
are
specific way of
like
connection. But
like a
I think it's not
system,
very important to the
like
discussion
a
because
system that is the mixture of two different liquids has a lot of degrees of freedom, right? Like in terms of the potential positions and characteristic properties of the different molecules in the liquid. So
it,
is mixing two liquids, does that express free will for those liquids
uh,
with
it
that solution?
has to do with definitions. So if you don't have a way to count degrees of freedom in the liquid, then we can't count free will in this situation. If we have a way to count degrees of freedom, then yes, we can talk about it.
Wow. I mean, I think that we would be able to calculate the number of degrees of freedom for like a certain like mole of any liquid or whatever, liquid mixture. So I don't know, this just seems to be a very strangely operationalized meaning of free will. Can you like tell me where you're getting some of these ideas from in terms of the relationship between the degrees of freedom and a system's free will?
As I said at the beginning, it's a problem with language and definitions. So basically, what I'm doing is proposing a definition that would be helpful. And why I'm
Well,
doing
like
this because uh, I think maybe last 100 years or maybe several more since when Laplace maybe people talking about free will more than needed.
so where did you get your definition from though?
Uh, yeah, so I have read a lot of books and so on, and also a lot of people who disagrees with this, like Robert Sapolsky, Sam Harris, and I always found this discussion is not helpful, and I can explain why.
Well, before you
As
go
I was
and
trying to say, people are wasting time discussing this topic because in alternative history we could have a working definition of free will that not violating laws of physics, but also people has it. Uh,
so
and
again, I understand why you might think that, you know, if it, basically the type of libertarian free will that I was talking about, I think we can all agree doesn't exist. And so you're
Yep,
saying that it's helpful then to change, like say, or like maybe you wouldn't even say change, just to say what I'm talking about free
propose.
will is not a helpful concept. And what you're talking about free will, you say is like, and it can be operationalized, it can be measured, and you're claiming that it is a useful concept, right? Because I would just say
Exactly, exactly. Mhm.
that my libertarian concept of free will, I don't think exists, and I don't think is a useful concept. So I would just say throw out the concept of free will. But you say we can save this whole idea that humans do have free will. So can you explain to me why it's useful or why we should preserve this notion?
Okay, so you said exactly, and why? Uh, so sorry, I need to have my thoughts and explain in English. So why it's helpful?
Yeah, why should I believe in free will?
I'm not a linguist, but I'm pretty sure that originally when people coined this word, this phrase, they didn't even think about laws of physics, and primarily it was applied to situation where people were coerced or like slaves or something, or like
I'm
under
not
violence.
sure about that because I know that at least in terms of like Greek philosophers, they were literally arguing about determinism versus free will in terms of physics for like, thousands of years ago.
Maybe I'm not sure, but I mean, I'm pretty sure primarily it was invented when distinguishing between when people were coerced against when people decided to do something by themselves. So in this case, it's helpful, like for maybe legal cases, to distinguish if the cause originated outside of person's brain or inside, to determine like intention and I mean all legal actions. Sorry, I don't know all of the words.
So, like, I can understand why free will would be helpful in terms of like like, were you legally coerced into doing something, or did you do something of your own, in like your own volition? Was it your own decision, as in, was it a product of your brain versus
Yeah,
was it something that was imposed upon you from outside?
yeah, and I have a mechanical explanation to this also.
Um, well, I don't know if we need like I mean, I'm already agreeing with you, so like I don't know if we need a mechanical explanation. I mean, I would agree that it's important to determine like if somebody's actions were coerced by somebody else. I mean, I would agree with that utility, but like you don't need to have a concept of free will to have to determine that, right? Like, I'm a determinist. I can just say, hey, was like we can acknowledge that the actual chain of events that leads up to somebody's decision is always going to involve both events that happen in their brain and events that happen in the environment, right? That's every
Exactly,
decision. So
exactly.
so teasing out those two is just seems like a fool's errand.
So why I wanted to add a mechanical explanation, because it makes a distinction between external and internal.
Okay, go ahead.
So, for example, we define a system like connected parts. It will be like a brain in a human's case. But no, let's talk about computers. So in computer program, you have lines of code, and like in first robots, it was like always 100% they were doing what you told them to do. But then in more advanced programs, you can add conditions, if then. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm arguing is that if then is where free will born and can be measured. So basically one if adds 1 degrees of freedom. And in
Sure. I mean,
more
this is sounding
in
like
more
this basically is sounding like compatibilism to me, where like the compatibilists say, at least in terms of how I understand to what the compatibilists are saying, is that they're saying that yeah, free will is just in terms of, well, was the causal process that led to the behavior the result of like you know processes that are internal to your brain, like if then statements, like you're saying, or was it imposed outside? I can understand why that would be utility, like how that would have utility. I just think that that's like kind of like moving the goalpost and changing the meaning of free will compared to what was originally being argued about in Greece. But
I
um,
don't know. I don't know. There are a lot of different definitions. I'm just trying to pick the best one and use it and stop arguing. If I can
I can
convince, but
understand
if not,
how what you're
then
saying has
we can
utility,
get
and
rid of it.
maybe we could just change the definition of free will to be like the most useful term. I could understand that. I guess it's just like um, whatever it is that is people have this intuitive sense. Like the average person on the street has a sense of what they think free will is, and for most people, it's like, well, yeah, I freely am choosing my decisions, and I can choose otherwise. It's whatever I want. If I want to wear a blue shirt versus a purple shirt, I can do anything. And like they don't really have. I think it's a useful concept to be able to understand that the processes that lead up to your decisions are like essentially deterministic, and you don't actually have this feeling of this, oh, I can just choose whatever I want. I mean, I guess you do, but you don't get to choose what you want. That's what I wish that more people would understand. But thank you for your call. Um, just because it's so early on in the show, I don't want to get super bogged down in a really long discussion right out the gate. But I'm I do
Yes, thank
enjoy
you.
talking about this concept, and I'm definitely open to talking about it more in depth with you at a later point.
Sure. I just want to add the final words. Thank you
Sure.
for the work you're doing. Sometimes to solve a problem, you just need to take a trash and move it to a different place where it doesn't ruin anything. Yeah,
Yeah.
I wish people do it more.
Well, thank you very much for your call.
Okay,
I appreciate it.
bye.
Justin, did you have
It
anything that
was
you
fun.
wanted to add on this call? I'm curious about what your thoughts are on free will.
Um, well, just all I have really on free will is when it comes to theological arguments. Um, the th- the theist who would argue that free will is real has no leg to stand on when they also include an all-knowing, omniscient God who already knows the outcome of everything that will ever happen. That, by definition, it just completely eliminates any free will. But as a topic on its own, I think it's one that we can count on to discuss and debate for eternity.
Well said. Well said. Well, hey, thank you very much for your first call. I'm glad that somebody called in with a differing opinion. That those are some of my favorite calls. So thank you so much for calling in. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and the idea for a bar. Sorry, I didn't donate, but maybe someone will donate. Very funny idea is to call a bar a poutine.
A poutine.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, this
Okay,
is
that
good
noting.
because
my
I'm
we've
last
noting
got
word.
it.
it's
I will
current,
let.
it's trending, and we've got a Canadian as the co-host. So I think that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay.
And not sure coming from Ukraine. Thanks so much for calling, and please keep your head up over there. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Um.
Bye.
Yeah.
We're getting pretty close here on this trash bag as well.
Already.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an impressive amount of garbage there, Grayson.
I know, right? I don't even know how, like, this amount of trash ends up in a location like this. I really don't. Like, did it fall from the sky? Like, it seems like
Yeah,
there was like a road or like a paved trail here that got eroded, and it literally just looks like it eroded into trash. It's just going directly into the San Diego's waterways.
um, yeah, like that's a good question. Did it all arrive at once, or did like someone see one trash bag there and go, "Oh well, looks like I can just add to it there."
Right?
And
Like,
and
it
next to
seems
like
like
a
all this.
waterway like this too is even more just like where
Yeah.
does this water feed to? Where is it coming from? Because that trash
Oh,
goes
well,
into
it
the
feeds
water and gets
into
washed.
the San Diego Bay is right there that goes directly into the Pacific Ocean. So that
There you
answers
go.
where it's going.
Yeah, so you're really cutting it off at the pass right there.
Yeah, I mean, it's like literally just a couple 100 meters that way is the San Diego Bay. I mean, I don't think that people can really see very well on the stream, but you can kind of see that there's cranes and things. Those are actually US Navy destroyer ships that are like docked in the bay right now. You can see the tops of them in the distance. Because, like, I don't know if people know about San Diego, but there's like a huge Navy base here.
The only thing I've heard or know about San Diego is it's one of the most like if I'm understanding correctly, and maybe it's a myth I've heard, But when it comes to temperature in San Diego, it's like the most constant, steady temperature year round. Like from month to month, it's like
Yeah.
a
I mean,
constant
it's
70
beautiful.
degrees is what I've heard.
I mean, not a cloud in the sky here. It's a beautiful, beautiful day. I just wish that there wasn't so much dang trash.
Yeah. So if you guys like watching Grayson and you're totally hip to what he's doing, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. If you're not hip to what he's doing and you've got a problem with this, well,
Call in.
the pin, the chat link is pinned in the chat to join us here on the StreamYard, and you can tell him all the ways that you don't agree with what he's doing. And I think that would be crazy. That would be, it'd be one thing to debate some science or theism, but to come on here and be like, "Stop picking up the trash, you crazy
Dude, like a
maniac."
literal villain from Captain Planet calls in. Like, what are you doing? Taking the trash out of the Pacific Ocean where it needs
Yeah,
to go?
yeah. But we have another a guest backstage, so
Awesome.
let's bring them forward. You may know this person. They go by Modern Atheism. Modern Atheism, how you doing today?
Good, and you?
Oh, better now that you're here, buddy.
I'm glad.
Doing great. Welcome to the stream.
Yeah. What's up, Grayson?
Oh, not much.
Yeah. I was thinking about that underwear you showed us, the one that
Oh,
was under
yeah.
a rock. I think
Yeah, real
Sorry, gentlemen. I just want to
teasing the
interrupt real
stream.
quick. So we've got a hive raid coming in. So Bree has brought her minions, and they're raiding your channel right now, Grayson.
Ah, the hive, welcome. Thank you, Bree. Freaking love Bree. She's awesome.
Sorry, Modern Atheism. Didn't mean to interrupt.
no problem.
We have to draw the attention where when it's currently actively happening here. So carry on. What were you saying?
So no, just making a small joke. Like I was thinking, how
Juan,
did
you
that
there with us?
underwear? What?
What's wrong, Grayson?
Cannot hear our guest.
You can't hear him? I can hear him fine.
Is he
you
here
hear
with
me
us talking
still?
right now? Yeah, I can hear you.
Interesting.
Good. Hello, Grayson. Do you hear this?
If he's talking right now, I cannot hear anything.
Oh,
That's
really?
weird because I can hear
Oh,
him
now I
fine.
can hear him. Now I can hear him.
Yeah, I just raised his mic volume, but I can hear him fine before that.
Okay.
Anyways,
Yeah,
I can hear him now.
go ahead.
Next time, maybe I will get a mic.
No, I could hear you at the beginning. It was just whenever maybe Bree's raid was just so intense it took your voice away.
Okay. So whatever. So I was debating. Do you know? Are you familiar with the transcendental argument for God?
The tag argument, the transcendental argument. Yeah, I'm familiar with that one.
Yeah, it seems to be
By
getting.
the way, this trash bag number 1 is full. Look at that.
All right. Well, if anybody out there in the chat has a punny name or anything that would be appropriate to name this trash bag before Grayson eliminates it from the planet and forever, feel free to super chat it, and we will anoint its name in a little bit. Anyways, Modern Atheism, you were making a point or asking a question there.
Yeah. So I had a couple of questions about tag, like how does materialism account for A, the laws of logic, and B, the regularity of nature? Maybe if you can help me out here, Grayson. So let me give you on the first topic, the laws of logic. Let me tell you about the argument that they make. What they ask basically is, what is the ontological status of the laws of logic? And you have two options, either concrete or abstract. So I will say they're abstract. Now here's the problem. The definition of abstract is something that exists in the mind as a concept, but not physically. Exists in the mind is what they say. So what they say is, since abstract is defined this way, therefore you need a mind for something abstract to exist. Because the laws of logic existed before the mind, any minds did. Like you will need a mind to encase them. That's the argument they were making last time. So what would you say about this?
Yeah, so basically I would agree with them that, like, you know, concepts such as, you know, the laws of logic or whatever exist as concepts as such in the mind, as actually, like, you know, the physical neural activity. And the key that I would distinguish is that the laws of logic did not exist before human minds existed. The laws of logic are not some sort of abstract that governs the way that the universe behaves. The
Okay.
universe is the way that it is, and then we describe it by creating laws of logic. So, like, the laws of logic are descriptions that humans have, like, human minds have created to describe the universe around us. So, like, they did not exist in it of themselves before human minds created these descriptions. The universe itself existed before the descriptions that humans came up with to describe it. But the universe itself is not like the laws of logic, and the laws of logic do not prescribe the behavior of the universe. They just describe the behaviors of the universe. So that's basically my stance on the laws of logic and whether or not they exist as actual abstract objects independent of any human minds. I don't think that they do. And in terms of describing the regularity of the universe, basically, I would just say that it appears to be pretty regular when we look at it. It's not like perfect, you know? Sometimes we observe constants and they don't seem to be the same, like the Hubble constant, you know? When we look at it in certain measurements, it gets one thing, and when we look at it with others, it gets the other. So it's like they're really, you know, there's not a perfect regularity and uniformness to nature, like, but it's pretty uniform in terms of certain things, in terms of, like, well, hey, we've never seen an exception to the, you know, law of identity or whatever. You know, these descriptions of our universe appear to be universal everywhere we look. And if you're in terms of, like, asking why that is, we don't currently know. Like, I mean, there's certain principles in cosmology, like the Copernican principle, to where the universe is the same everywhere we look and things like that. But in terms of why that should be the case, personally, I think that we will not have a good answer until we understand what space is and how it's generated. But I would say that in terms of justifying it, I'd say that our empirical evidence is enough to justify the uniformity of nature. We don't need to say it is uniform because of, you know, some necessary being or whatever. I don't think that that's necessary. All that's necessary is to say, when we look around us, we don't see any exceptions for certain regularities, like the law of non-contradiction. So it's like, well, it's good enough to conclude that there's a certain regularity just based on our observations. We don't need a guarantor of why it's so uniform if we don't have a good enough empirical, like, if we don't have a good enough justification for why that is. We shouldn't make one up or claim that it's necessary to have one. Like, I think the best position to have is basically to recognize that we're describing, like, the laws of logics are just describing the way that the universe is. And the universe itself might be contingent or it might be a brute fact. We don't know.
Okay, but do you think then isn't that like implying that if the universe had been different, then the laws of logic would be different?
Absolutely, yes. That is true.
I don't think that's possible.
I think that that is necessarily true. Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
for example, we have a real example of that already with quantum logic. Like, there's a different kind of logic that is applied to quantum scaled systems that doesn't have a universal law of excluded middle. Like, the one of the basic tenets of the laws of logic no longer applies in a universal way. It only becomes true under certain conditions under quantum logic, which is the logic that applies to quantum scale universe. So we already see examples, known examples, where the universe starts to defy what we would consider to be the traditional laws of logic, and then we just have to update our laws of logic to change with our observations of the universe. So if that's already the case with quantum logic, I see no reason why that wouldn't be the case with, you know, a potentially radically different type of universe.
I don't think there is any kind of universe where a logical contradiction can be true. It just doesn't seem possible.
Well, I certainly don't know if it's possible or not possible, but I would need a better argument about why it's not.
Well, okay, sure. It just seems obvious to me, but I don't know. I will have to. There is no way to prove it. I cannot make an argument for it because making an argument precisely involves using the laws of logic
Well,
to
we
prove
can use the
something.
laws of logic in our universe because, again, we don't see exceptions to things like the law of identity or non-contradiction in our universe. So they're reliable enough to be used without assuming that they necessarily must be universal. They're good
Sure.
enough.
Okay. Sure. Okay. You know, yeah, but because one of the things that they say when I say that yeah, the laws of logic were like invented or described by humans is that before humans existed, then a thing could have been not identical to itself or something nonsensical like that, you know, and that this is impossible, that
Yeah,
nothing can
the way
exist.
that the universe behaves doesn't change, but the universe is not like the laws of logic are just descriptions of the way that the universe behaves. So yeah, like they're just naming the different behavioral patterns of the universe. Those behavioral patterns didn't change before the descriptions were invented, but the descriptions themselves don't exist in their own right. Like neither do the laws of logic, even if you're just saying that, even if they're not descriptions or whatever, if they're just I mean, I don't know how to just think of them as other than descriptions, to be honest, but like they're the way that the universe relates to each other and the way that it like activities in the universe, like properties that they have, whatever they pan out over time. None of that was different before humans came along, but again, it doesn't require that the laws of logic themselves exist for that to be the case. The only thing
Yeah,
that has to exist in that case is the universe itself.
yeah, I see what you mean. It's like it depends on how you define to exist, you know, like some people like nominalists, they will define to exist like basically occupying space, you know, but
Well,
you know, it's
like
a lot of.
basically, I'm saying that the laws of logic are properties of the universe. The universe exists, the properties don't exist independent of the thing itself. So it's like before I was born, my properties did not exist independently of me. That's the point I'm making. Like the laws of logic are properties of the universe, and like the universe itself existed, but like, you know, it behaved the way that it did. But we don't need to say that, oh, well, this is what guarantees the uniformity of nature. Like it's just it's an unnecessary assumption to think that that needs to be guaranteed by something. It's just an observation that we have a regularity in nature that's regular enough for our observations to not have exceptions.
Yeah, that's what I thought as well. But they will ask things like, "Oh, how do you know that in the future this will be the
You
same
don't.
laws? You know, it will be
You don't.
regular,
Like
right?" But I
you
think
don't.
you can. But you live assuming that because it's a reasonable assumption. Why is
Yeah,
it a
yeah.
reasonable assumption?
It's completely reasonable. But I should clarify that I'm a fallibilist, so that I think that you can't be 100% certain of basically anything. But you can be pretty dang sure that the sun is going to rise tomorrow morning,
Yeah,
because of the reliability of your empirical data suggesting that it will. Like, it's pretty dang reliable. It's reliable enough for you to live your life without having to question, oh my God, is the sun going to come up tomorrow because there's problems with induction? It's like, no, like, nobody's actually worried about that because if you're 99.99% certain about something, you're functionally 100% certain of it. Like philosophically, there might be a difference there, but like for the purposes of like living life, you know, No, there's really not that much of a difference. Like I'm functionally certain that the sun is going to rise tomorrow, even if I'm not philosophically certain. I don't have, true philosophical knowledge because it's just induction and it's not deduction, blah, 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 blah. The sun's going to rise tomorrow. I don't even really have much of a, you know, actual meaningful doubt in my mind about that.
Sure. Okay.
Hey, Justin,
Yes,
let's
sir.
go ahead and let's name that first trash bag. If nobody's come up with any super chats yet,
Oh, we got
that
one.
means
We
that
got one. We got one.
oh, okay. I was gonna say that then you would get that privilege, but the kind chat has robbed you of it.
Okay, it's all good. So there's a person here that maybe you're familiar with her, but Ember
Huh.
has put $2 forward and would like that first trash bag named GOP Policy Volume 1.
Perfect.
I agree. I think it's quite good and topical. Also, someone else you may be familiar with, Yahooligan. I think I'm pretty close to
Oh,
that.
I always miss this because I'm in
Um,
the stream and I missed it last time.
well, I went ahead and donated 5
Yep.
memberships there for you, Grayson. And
Nice.
I hit Doc Dino, JG, Matt K, Vector Low, and unapologetically Chrissy. So
Awesome.
enjoy your channel memberships, everybody.
Well, here's GOP policy version 1. Hopefully the silver Sharpie is a little bit more visible than last
Volume
week.
1. Volume 1 specifically.
Oh,
but
whoops, I wrote version 1.
It's all good.
Okay.
They could write as many versions or volumes they want. They'll never get it right at their rate.
It's still trash policy either way,
Yeah.
literally.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So we're making progress on trash bag number 2.
Already, wow. Doesn't take long to fill up a trash bag, does it?
Not when the trash is like this concentrated.
Right. Well, if anybody else has any more trash bag name suggestions, we've got another trash bag needs a name, so feel free
Yeah, it's in the
to
works.
super chat
Coming up.
what you would like to name the bag, and we'll be happy to name it for you. As well as don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button right now. And if you want to get on stage here with Grayson and have a chat with him about, well, anything,
Pretty much anything, yeah.
the StreamYard link is pinned above. We've got like 30 people watching here, so there's more than enough voices out there. You just need to have enough guts to come on over and have that discussion.
Thanks for calling him out, Justin. I will say the last thing that I'll just say about the tag argument, just to summarize up these pre-suppers, right, is I would encourage people to read up on the notions of like fundamentality and whether or not something needs to be like fundamental, like this whole concept that the pre-suppers abuse about metaphysical grounding, and they say, oh, knowledge needs to be grounded in a necessary being or something. Like that's all just their presupposition, right? Like they don't actually have like good arguments justifying that. Like when you actually look at like the current state of metaphysics, you'll see that like necessary being and the grounding of like having a foundation, which is the stance called foundationalism, is only one of the valid metaphysical camps that like professional philosophers are in right now. The other two, I mean, like, oh, there's multiple. There's infinitism. There's like the universe just existing as a brute fact. There's also coherentism. There are all these other like valid camps of metaphysics in terms of foundation and grounding and what is required, that you don't need to make this assumption about, oh, well, you need to have some necessary thing that grounds the intelligibility of knowledge or whatever the presupper claims are. Like, this is just them misunderstanding like the current field and state of metaphysics. Like, if you go and you actually read up about the field, it's very clear why there are no professional presuppers. Right? All the presuppers, all the people that
Yeah.
are running these arguments are not professional philosophers because
Yeah,
they would be shot down very quickly.
yeah. I asked one of these guys, why do philosophers like William Lane Craig and one of the real good ones, why don't they
Yeah.
never use tag? And they say, oh, because most people wouldn't get it because it's so complex. That's what they say. But I'm like, no.
Yeah, the philosophers famously adulterating their ideas for public accessibility. What a stupid notion. That's like the biggest cope that I've ever heard about why why presupper ideas have like literally no traction in philosophy at all is because like they were defeated hundreds of years ago. Anyways, thanks for calling in, Juan. I always
Well,
appreciate your
thank you.
calls.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Okay, have fun.
Yeah, well, I'm having a blast.
I can say that.
All right. Thanks, Modern Atheism,
Okay,
for
thank you.
calling it. Don't be a stranger now.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you. So, yeah, Justin, how you feeling? I feel like we're making a little bit of progress, but at the same time, this stuff is pretty entrenched.
Yeah, it's been there a few seasons. It looks like.
It's hard to tell, honestly, with some of this stuff about how long it's been here.
Guys, I'm watching you go with the one piece at a time, and it's like, oh man, you need a shovel over there.
I know, right? I mean, usually with whenever I'm out in locations, I like to keep a move on it and stuff, but just while streaming, it's better to stay in one place. And while you're moving around, it's good to go one piece at a time and stuff. But for a place like this where it's all highly concentrated, yeah, I feel like I need like a bulldozer.
Right.
Yeah.
Uh,
So I guess if there's no other callers that are waiting in, that would be a good opportunity for me to explain about just what happened last week. That was so crazy with immediately after Trash Talk ended, right? So you think it's a
yeah,
good time?
go for it.
Yeah. So for those of you tuning in that were here last week, um, it was like the most perfect good luck followed by the most comically bad luck followed by good luck again. Um, a lot has happened in between last week and now. Let me just say that much. So the last time any of you as an audience saw was just when the first episode of Trash Talk wrapped up and ended last weekend, exactly a week ago, and everything went out great. Like I could not have asked for a better first episode. You guys made it freaking awesome. Like I said, it was exactly what I was hoping. And the stream ended and I was maybe like 15 seconds into a conversation behind the stage right at the end of the stream, thanking Dr. Dino for being my co-host when my phone died. So it's like I didn't even know like what my battery percentage was, but it was literally so perfect that it made it just to the exact end of the stream and then no more. Like literally 15 seconds more and it was dead. So it was perfectly timed for the stream, at least in terms of my battery life. And like my phone was plugged into a power bank and everything. Like that's how much the power drain on from streaming was for 3 hours. So that was like I was like thinking, wow, that's amazingly lucky. That I can't believe how lucky I am, right? So I go to try to finish texting Doc, and I plug my phone in outside at a building outside from where I was picking up trash at. And trust me, like this story will make sense about why I'm telling you all this soon. But essentially, what the heck is this? Oh,
You have
I
to
don't
raise
even
it higher
know.
for us to see it there, Grayson.
I don't even want to raise this higher. It's like a rod that's coming apart into like horse hair. I have no idea.
Strange.
Yeah, some of this stuff is nasty, and I'm trying not to like breathe in through my nostrils right now to inhale it. But um, so I plugged my phone in outside, and I'm taking off a glove with one hand, and I'm texting Doc with the other, and my phone falls like it slips out of my hands, slips out of the wall socket where it's plugged into, and it falls straight down into a hole. Like there was a black plastic pipe, maybe like 5 inches in diameter or something, that was just open on the ground. and my phone just fell straight into it. Like nothing but net. It didn't even hit the rim at all. And it was like comically bad luck. Like I looked around and there were multiple of these holes and every other one was covered except for the one that was right next to the wall socket. And the cover for that one, it was uncapped and the cap was laying right next to the open hole. And my phone just fell right into it. And the thing was L shaped, right? So my phone falls straight in and then swoop goes right off to the right hand side, and I never see it again. It like instantly is no longer reachable. I think there was water down there. I had like the handyman at the hotel that was like the building. He came out and tried to help me out. He was a good dude, but none of his tools could get it. We couldn't find it in the storm drain system. It was like that phone is just gone. So shortly after Trash Talk ended, my phone was ended as well. And I do not have that phone anymore in my life.
Yeah, this is going to be like the most expensive budget for a program if you're going to go through a cell phone every single time you do an
Yeah, like every
episode.
single episode of Trash Talk requires a new iPhone. Because I trashed my phone at the end of the episode. No, but so it really was like the most massive help in the world, all the super chats from the last stream, because I literally needed them immediately after the stream ended to buy a new phone. Like after Trash Talk ended last week, I literally had to go and purchase a new phone because mine was just no more. And I haven't seen it since. And so like I think and so here's what the good luck is though at the end of it, right? Because I was saying that it was like first I had good luck with the phone dying right on time. Then I had bad luck, obviously dropping my phone into a bottomless pit. And then I had good luck again because it turns out that the day that I did that was the day after the brand new iPhone came out. That was like the cheapest iPhone they've had in years or something. And I had been meaning to switch phone providers anyway. Shout out T-Mobile. I went to T-Mobile, and honestly, like I wish this stream was sponsored by T-Mobile. It's not. I'm just doing this because they were awesome. They gave me like they were doing some sort of promotion where they were doing like the new iPhone and all the bundles and everything for like I think I walked out of the store all told paying like $100, and the super chats from the last stream were like $75. So it's like you guys like I was having a really bad day losing my phone after having a really good day with doing the first successful Trash Talk, and then it ended up being a really good day again because you guys basically like helping me out more than you even knew last week, uh, helping me upgrade my whole system here because again I was really not happy with the picture quality from last week on my old phone, so I wanted to upgrade anyway to like a better system and better setup for the streams. So this kind of forced my hand. So it was like actually kind of in the end turned out to be maybe more lucky because yeah, like it was like $100 to upgrade my phone and get a new system. And I hope that the picture is better this week than it is last week. I mean, I can't really see it myself, but let me know in the comments. What do you think, Justin?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a certain amount of like lateral give and take here where it's fine. We can tell that you're picking up trash. We can tell that it's terrible, the level of trash in the area that you're picking up.
But you guys don't you want to see this in high definition to see how gross all this
if we're going
trash
to
is?
implement some new technology, let's get our hands on some smell-o-vision, then we can really
Oh
be there with
yeah.
you.
Wow, yeah, let's bring it home for if you super chat, then you get to smell what I'm smelling right now.
Yeah.
Nobody would ever super chat again.
Yeah, on that note, just again, real quick, if anybody wants to get on stage here and to hang out and talk with Grayson, the link is pinned above in the chat. Also, we name our trash bags here, so if you guys want to have an opportunity to name the trash bag, the highest
Yeah, you can
super chat.
name it after somebody you hate. Name it after an X, named
Yeah.
after somebody on
We
YouTube.
like the
Name
good
it.
pun ones too. The pun ones are
Yeah,
fun.
we love good pun names. Name it after maybe current. I don't know. I'll just say something random. Orange-skinned politician or something.
Tangerine
Anything you
tyrant.
want.
With that, Grayson, we've got another guest here.
Awesome. Love to hear it.
Yeah, so they're going by right now. They're going by the name of Park Place, and they claim that you told them to call in.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I sent out the invitations to a couple people that I knew we disagreed about things.
All right, well, Park Place, you're on stage if you're still there. You're talking with Grayson.
Hey,
Are you
Park
there?
Place, you there?
Yeah, Grace, can you hear me?
Yeah, thank you for calling in, my man.
What's going on?
I'm as you can see right now, I'm outdoors. I'm picking up trash, enjoying the nice day, hoping to have some interesting conversations with my my friend and co-host here, Justin.
Okay, that's what's up. Yeah, just picking up on our conversation the other day via email.
Justin, could you turn up his volume a little bit? He's a little quiet on my end. I don't know how he is for you.
Yeah.
And yes, so I've been talking with Park Place back and forth on email right now. He's been sending me like arguments and syllogisms and stuff, and it just like I was super talk
Okay.
about it.
Sorry, say that again, Grayson. You cut out. Your audio just disappeared, but then you came
I
back.
was just basically saying that the emails were getting too wordy, so I said, let's just talk about it in person, call into the show.
All right. Well, make here's your chance to have less wordy conversation.
Do you remember what we were disagreeing about, Park Place? You want to maybe tell the audience about what we were disagreeing about?
Yeah, a few things. So we first started off with whether whether time is infinite or whether it's finite. We're having a discussion about that. We also had a discussion about whether something can come from nothing. And then I think the last thing we're discussing was I think you said you came up with a syllogism that said let me pull it up real quick. So you came up with the syllogism that said that every verified example of something beginning to exist is simply a rearrangement of already existing matter.
Yep.
That was P1.
Yep.
P2, no one knows or has any evidence or valid argument to suggest that the universe began to exist, but it is possible that the universe and space-time along with it began to exist.
Yeah. Well,
Conclusion, if
whoever
the
wrote
universe
that guy really knows his stuff.
really,
Yeah.
I think the same argument could be used to disprove abiogenesis then.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, this is going to be an interesting conversation then.
Yeah. So so those are the three topics that we were discussing. So whichever one you want to pick up on, whether time or something coming from
Wait.
nothing, or
You were reading my syllogism. And so what were you saying that you disagreed with my syllogism? What part of it were you disagreeing with?
so you said that okay, so using your syllogism, I think I disagree with P1. I think the conclusion doesn't follow. I think it's an argument from ignorance. I have a bunch of a bunch of issues with the syllogism, but I think the biggest way I can show you that syllogism, um, how should I put it? I think the biggest argument against the syllogism is that it could be used if I just reversed some words. I could use it to prove that life comes from life and life does not come from non-life.
Okay, then do that.
Okay, so every verified example of life beginning to exist is simply comes from already existing life. So let's see, P2. It is possible that hold on a second. Let me see. Hold on a second. I'm sorry, I wrote it out. Let me pick it back up. just
Yeah,
lost my
no worries.
place.
I'm just curious about where you're going with this, with the abiogenesis thing. You're saying basically that since, Louis Pasteur showed that spontaneous generation isn't real, then therefore abiogenesis isn't a thing?
No. So let me pose my syllogism to you. You tell me if this is valid. So P1, every verified example of life beginning to exist came from another living being. P2, life on Earth began to exist. Therefore, life on Earth came from another living being.
Interesting. So it's like an argument for panspermia. I think that the state of the evidence basically disputes P1 basically, where we have like a verified instance of life coming into being from non-life. We can infer that that was the case based on the fact that life exists now, and we know that life did not exist in the past. You say that an intelligent designer was responsible for creating that, but we all agree that life came from non-life, which would invalidate the first premise.
Well, so you're rejecting P1, is that correct?
Yeah, because I do think that we have a verified example of life coming from non-life, in that we know
How
that in the early universe that there was no life, and we know now that there is life. So somehow, whatever the mechanism, that's an example of life coming from non-life that we can verify.
what is what definition are you using of verified? How is that verified?
I guess that this one would only be verified through like logical, like basically like logical induction. That's to say that by the way, that this trash bag's getting too heavy to pick up. I think it's done skis. Um, Basically, the argument is that, sorry, I kind of lost track of what I was saying. One of the issues of multitasking, I guess. Um, it's like a logical induction argument coming from the fact that at one point we can verify that there was no life in the universe. Like the early universe, the presence of the cosmic microwave background shows that the universe could not support life in those stages, so there was no life in the universe. And now we know that there is life in the universe. So we know, regardless of the mechanism for how that happened, unless I guess you're trying to say that life came from outside of this universe, which I don't think anyone is arguing. Well, I guess maybe some people are arguing, but no one's serious. Then therefore you can conclude that life came from non-life, and you have at least one example of it, in that it had to be the case, right? I mean, there's no other way unless life is not of this universe. Even in your example, where God creates life, life still came from non-life at that point in the past, and that is a verified example of it.
Well, so again, a couple issues, but the first one, I just want to make sure that we're on the same page when it comes to definitions. So when you say verified, are you saying just logically, it's logically
Like if it can be
unavoidable?
demonstrated, if it can be demonstrated. So I'd say that you
Okay,
can demonstrate that life came from non-life by showing that there was a point with non-life and now there's a point with life. So therefore it is necessary that life had to come from non-life.
okay, that makes sense. So you're saying logically, it's just it's a logical induction that
Yeah, and
if
I would count
the
that as like a demonstratable example, because it's like, well, we can show that it is necessary that life came from non-life at some point in the past.
but that would assume so you're making a few assumptions there, and I would say the first thing
No,
you're
even
assuming.
even if God is necessary, and even if God is created, it still holds up. It's still an example that life came from non-life, even if God was
Well,
the creator of it.
again, I think you're assuming a couple of things, but the first thing I say you're assuming, it seems to me like you're the basic premise of your argument is that because of the state of the universe, early on, this call it the Big Bang, around that period of time, that
Sure.
life was not it couldn't sustain life.
Yeah.
Is that what you're premising off? That's an assumption that has not been demonstrated. I think you have not, I think you'd have to demonstrate that life. First,
Sure.
you
I
have to
I think it.
define what life is. I think that's hard to define from a scientific standpoint. Um, and then
Sorry,
after you
Parkside.
define
I'm just
that,
going to stop you there real quick. It would appear we've lost Grayson. Are you still there, Grayson? Yeah, that's what I thought.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that, Park Place, but you know, that's one of the reasons why we've got a man in the chair. So in case we have these moments, because with what Grayson's trying to pull off here with trash talk, it is different, and it's expected to have some technical
Yeah,
difficulties.
no
All
worries.
we can do is just hope that he's going to realize very quickly here that he's disconnected. So I'll just have you hold on to that thought. And I'll just do some quick housekeeping here to remind everybody that there's plenty of room and plenty of time still if anybody wants to click the StreamYard link pinned above in the chat and come on over and join us here on the stage. Grayson's filling up garbage bags and he's picking up the trash in his own backyard. I don't mean literally his backyard. I'm sure his backyard's pretty clean, but um, and he's lining up the bags, and we're taking super chats to name these bags. So if anybody's got a fun name you want to give to a trash bag, now's a good time to go ahead and give us a super chat. It also helps Grayson out with losing cell phones and being able to pay for new ones. So Park Place, I guess I'll just ask you. So you and Grayson have been having like an email back and forth together. Then it sounds like.
Yeah. It's first started off with like it's in the comment section on one of his videos, and then we were talking for months, and so it just made more sense just to email back and forth.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for coming on to Grayson's channel and supporting him in this endeavor. Looks like Grayson is reconnected. He's back. He's got his gloves back on. He
Is
hasn't said
everything
anything
okay?
yet.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Well, everything is messed up on my end. Apparently, if I get a phone call, everything gets ruined. I can no longer hear anything. I can't see anything. I got disconnected from StreamYard and it logged out of my account. And basically, now my AirPods don't even work. So apparently, just one phone call just ruins the entire setup. So I'm going to have to work on that.
Yeah, sounds like that's an Apple problem. Just saying, as an Android guy, putting that out
Yeah.
there. We can have that debate later. But Park Place was kind enough to wait and be patient for you to reconnect. I knew
Thank you,
you
Park
would.
Place.
I did a little housekeeping in the meantime, and while you were gone, Ember, another $2 super chats to name a bag, tag bag.
That's perfect because we got a second bag that needs naming.
There you go. Well, we'll call it tag bag.
What bag?
Tag bag.
Tag bag. Okay. The transcendental argument from garbage.
Anyways, sorry for the disruption there, Park Place. You two may continue and carry on.
Okay. Yeah. So the syllogism that I gave you, basically demonstrating that life came from life. You're saying that the P2 you agree with, life on Earth began to exist, and the conclusion, if P1 was true, the conclusion, it logically follows, right? So the only issue you have is with P1. Am I correct?
Remind me, what was P2?
Life on Earth began to exist.
Oh, well, panspermia is technically a possibility, but life in our universe began to exist, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I can change to life in our universe began to exist.
But see,
So
I also count that as being basically that like P2 would defeat P1 because that's a verifiable instance of life beginning to exist from non-life, which is in contradiction to P1. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe we're getting off topic because but I understand. I thought it's an interesting thought about how the syllogism could be used against abiogenesis. But like, I was more so thinking of like, I mean, this is my video. This comes from my video about fixing the Kalam cosmological argument, where the first premise is like, everything that begins to exist has a cause. And I'm just pointing out that everything that we are aware of that we say begins to exist is not like being created out of nothing. It's just a rearrangement of already existing things. Every example I can think of.
yeah, and same with life. Every
But see,
example.
that's what I'm saying is not the same with life. That's what I'm saying is not analogous to life, since I can think of at least one example where that is an exception to the premise, where I can think of exactly no exceptions to the premise that I laid out about things beginning to exist being rearranged from other previously existing things.
Well, I can think of an example, but before we get to that, because I think that will go into our discussion on time. The example that you're thinking of life coming from non-life, again, is premised off an assumption that you have not demonstrated. That the idea that the universe, that life cannot exist in the state that the
Oh,
universe
right.
was
That's
in
where we were
earlier.
at. Yeah, yeah. So for the CMB to exist, the entire universe had to be nothing but plasma, which means that life cannot exist. I think that's fairly straightforward. It's not really much of an assumption.
Well, how do you know life can't exist in plasma? You know,
Uh,
in a state.
because what life is, like just what it is.
And what is
Like,
life?
okay, so life is composed of DNA, RNA, sugars, proteins. None of these things would be able to exist in a plasma.
Well, you said life is composed of those things. Is that identical to life?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. I mean, if you're
So,
saying like, am I identical to myself? Yeah, like
so
I am composed of all the things. Like, basically what I would consider myself to be is a process, an activity that the material making up my body is doing.
you said
So
an activity that. So you said life is an activity that the components of your
yeah,
body are doing, right?
yeah, pretty
So
much.
so it's not
And like
so it's not
life is like
identical to
life
the
in general
components.
is with like groups of organisms and populations and things. But yeah, sure, it would just be impossible to do any of that when the whole universe is a plasma.
So you agree that it's not identical to the actual material because you say it's what it's doing. So it's an action.
Yeah, it's an activity.
It's an activity, right? So it's not identical to the material because matter is not. You can have sugar, you can
I don't know,
have
man. Is a
DNA.
soccer game identical to the players in the arena and the field and the ball and everything? Kinda. It's an activity that they're doing. But
Yeah,
the soccer
how's that
game doesn't
analogous?
freaking exist if you don't have a field or players or a ball.
Yeah, okay, yeah, how's that analogous to? Yeah, can you connect the dots for me? I'm not. We're trying to figure out what life is. You're saying life is. You
Yeah,
mentioned
I
DNA.
told
You
you life is
mentioned
an activity, just like a soccer game is an activity.
yeah,
And you're saying, is it identical to its components? I'm saying kinda. I mean, a soccer game is kinda identical to the sum of all of its parts. No, it's just an activity that all those parts are doing together that's coordinated.
yeah. So a soccer game is describing yeah, a type of, like you said, a type of activity. You can have a ball, you can have a field, you can have players, but it's not a game unless certain things are happening. Correct?
Yeah, they have to be doing a soccer game. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can have all the components and not have a game. Is
Yes.
what I'm saying, right? So then we can deduct from that life is not identical to the components, but it's
The
something very
components
very
have to be
specific.
doing the activity. I already told you that life is an activity. So yes, if that components are not doing the activity, obviously it's not going to be life. I mean, obviously.
Mm, Great, yeah. So again, we've already. I guess what I'm getting at is that life is not a physical thing,
It is for sure a physical thing.
and that's and what is your how would you demonstrate that?
All examples of life are 100% physical. Like, I would point to the fact that there can be that nobody can point to any exception.
Yeah, but just that's I think that's an argument from ignorance. Just because you don't have an example does not mean that
Yeah, but here's
an
the thing
example
though,
doesn't
is that
exist.
we should expect for there to be a counterexample if life was not like if there was life, if life was not physical, then when we examine life, then we shouldn't expect to find that everything that we could possibly find is physical. Right? There should be something to indicate that there's some non-physical. Like basically, an argument from ignorance is valid if only if we shouldn't expect uh like evidence to be present, right? Like if we
Well,
expect there to be positive evidence that life is non-physical, and then there is none, then the absence of that evidence does become evidence of absence.
yeah, but you keep talking about life as being physical, but we've already shown that you can have all the components and still not have life,
Yeah,
right?
because they're not doing the activity, right? You're trying to say
Yeah,
that activities are not physical. That's stupid. Like I said clearly, do you agree that a soccer game is physical? Yes?
Yes.
So then if all the soccer
I
players
agree
are at
that.
the so if all the soccer players are at the arena and they have the soccer ball, they have all the components to play the soccer game, but they haven't started playing soccer yet, does that mean that soccer games are non-physical? No, that's a dumb argument.
No, my argument is that you asked me about a soccer game. I believe that a soccer game involves physical activity.
Yeah, obviously, soccer games are
Yeah.
physical activities.
Well, it involves a physical. I'm not.
What do you think that a soccer game is a
components.
non-physical, like a platonic ideal soccer game now?
No, I'm saying that I think you can have all the physical components and still not have a soccer game. So
But
that tells me
okay,
that
dude,
there's
I've
some
agreed
type of
with you 3
distinction.
times about that. Please do not repeat that point again because I've already agreed with you 3 times now that we've already been over this ground and we've agreed on that much. I've already
Right.
agreed.
So then let's move on to the next point. The next point is that if you can, so again, maybe I should put this into syllogism form.
No,
You can have,
no, no. Look. I don't think we're ready to move on to the next point because
if you
just
can
because I've agreed
agree,
with that, that was not the point that we were arguing about. Look, we both agree that you can have all the components present. And if they're not doing the activity, then the activity is not being done. I'm
yes.
agreeing with that argument. That's
But you're
that you can't
saying,
go from there to saying that life is non-physical.
but you're saying the activity is a physical thing, which
Yes.
you would have to demonstrate that. I agree. The activity in this discussion involves physical,
Okay, so then
involves
let's
some type of
demonstrate
physical
that, right?
matter.
Every definition of life is about activities that life does, right? There are 7 main criteria, all of which involve activities, all of which are physical. From the
I,
presence of cells, which are physical, to the maintaining of homeostasis, which is a physical activity, to metabolism, to growth, to replication. These are all physical activities. Every single criteria of what determines if something is life or non-life are all physical properties. That's why life is physical. Every single criteria that determines if something is alive or not is a physical process or property.
First off, I don't agree. Obviously, as a Christian, I do not agree with that. But even if I were to agree with you, I would agree just for the sake of argument. You would have to demonstrate how a physical activity could not have happened in a state where the state of the universe was plasma, as you
Right.
described it.
Yeah. It's very easy to demonstrate because all of the physical activities for life involve either nucleic acids, proteins, lipids, or sugars, or other organic molecules that are interacting via ways of like organic chemical interactions, all of which cannot occur in plasma. So literally every single reaction that makes up a living system cannot occur if the universe is entirely composed of plasma. That is a physical impossibility. I don't know what
Are you
else you
able
want
to
to
are
demonstrate.
you are you able to demonstrate that is where life that is the limit of life?
Yeah, dude, what are you talking about?
Well, demonstrate it. I mean, it should be pretty straightforward.
I literally just did. Every single reaction in your body cannot occur if the universe is plasma. How
Yeah.
does that
So,
not demonstrate it?
how do you know life is limited to just bodies?
That's what it is. What do you mean? That's like if it didn't have a body, it wouldn't be life. It would be some
Demonstrate
other
that.
phenomenon.
Are you certain of that?
Yeah, it would literally be some other phenomenon. What are you talking about?
Okay, so that's objectively true, or is that your
That's what the
subjective?
definition of life, like that we all agree on, has literally as one of the criteria composed of cells. That means you have a body. If you don't have a body, then it's not life by the definition of life. So you're just changing the definition of words now.
Well, no, because life is not. There's no like general. There's no consensus on what exactly life is. Even you said this back
Yeah.
probably a
But
few months
every
ago. We
single
discussed this.
proposed example, every proposed example, right? For all the criteria from NASA's definition to the definition that you learn about in any elementary school, all of that requires a physical body. Like like you can't just change the definition and say, well, look, nobody has a consensus on this, so that means I can just make up my own definition. That doesn't follow.
Well, hold on a second. I think you're jumping. I'm saying the burden of proof is on you since you're making the claim that this is the extent of life. Life cannot be other than this. This is necessary for life. You have to demonstrate that. Are you able to do that?
Yeah, I've done it multiple times already. All life follows definitionally how we have applied certain characteristics to life versus non-life. One of those characteristics is if you're not composed of cells, you're not alive. That's a definition of life. Like that's part of our definition.
Yeah, but again, it varies. There are different definitions.
Okay, then the other definition is capable of undergoing Darwinian evolution. Again, requires a physical body, no? Because you have to interact with the physical environment, and spiritual, non-physical things don't interact with physical things. So therefore requires a body too. So like, if you can find for me any definition that you did not just make up to where a non-physical entity would be considered alive, go ahead and shoot. Or a plasma entity could be considered alive, go ahead and shoot. But not a single definition that I'm aware of that you could find would be able to do that. So like, you're just changing words to try to make, like, again, we're on a very fringe of the argument right now. And you're literally just trying to change definitions of words to try to prove your point here. Like, what are you actually trying to demonstrate?
I'm not demonstrating I'm not changing anything. I'm simply showing you disagree with premise one. The idea that life in this universe, the idea that life came from life, that every verified example, again, is the key word in premise one, every verified example of like, and so number one, I would disagree. I would what do you call it? I would push back on your rejection of premise one by saying, because your argument against premise one was that we have a verified example of life not coming from life early in the universe when no life existed, and so I would push back on that. That's not an actual refutation of P1 because it's not verified. Number one, because of these reasons I'm giving, because it is possible. You haven't demonstrated how it's necessary that life must have physical components. You haven't demonstrated.
What?
Number one, you haven't given an actual definition of life.
I've given you multiple.
Exactly. So you have not given a single definition. And
oh
so
my God, dude, you are not real right now.
Well, listen to what I'm saying. My argument is that because you have not given a single definition of life, life can be more than.
Oh, so it can be anything. If there's not a single consensus definition, then it can be anything. Like what? Because you're saying that
I didn't
even
say
though
it could be anything, it could be more. It could be more than what you're describing.
Every single like contested example, right, involves life being physical. Like even every proposed definition, all the ones that are currently vying for consensus, none of the different options aligns with your proposition. Like all of the different definitions for life are still physical.
I understand that. That's because we live in a natural world where matter is part of our natural world. I'm saying.
Okay, so then what is life to you
limited, then? You're saying it's limited to that.
Okay, you give me your single definition for life then, because if you disagree with all biology, which you do, because you think that life could be non-physical, so you disagree with the entire field of biology on that. So like, why don't you give me a definition of life that think that it would be possible for life to exist in plasma?
No, we're not moving off of your refutation, your attempted refutation of P1. You still have to demonstrate that in order for that refutation to stand. Otherwise, my syllogism.
Well, I gave you a definition of life. I told you how I gave an example of a verified definition, and now you're saying that you have a problem with my definition of life. So I'm asking you to provide your definition of life, and now you are refusing to do so, which you'd think would be a necessary thing for you to do if we're arguing about P1. Which involves life, right? Don't you think it should be necessary for you to define what you mean, since I've already given you my definitions and you reject them?
No, I'll explain what I think is necessary. So I've given a syllogism. You've rejected P1. You offered a counter argument, and I'm saying that counter argument has not been demonstrated. So you would have to demonstrate that that counter argument is in fact valid.
Yeah.
In order for that to actually be a refutation. Would you agree?
So all life, 100% of every single example of life that we can agree on, is composed of physical atoms. Yes?
No.
With no exceptions. Not a single exception, right?
Nope. I don't agree with that.
So then give me the exception.
God.
God is life?
Yep.
Okay, man. What? Now you're hitting me with a crazy curve here at the end. Do you what? You think God is alive?
Of course.
God who exists outside of space and time, according to you people?
He is life. Yes.
Oh my God, dude. This is just, I don't know, man. This is a new one for me. I mean, sometimes Christians will say that Jesus was alive when he was incarnated on earth as a human, but I've never heard anyone trying to make the point that God, like, is a form of life. God created life. He's not life himself.
No, he is life himself. He is. So this might be one of the reasons why you don't believe in God, because maybe you don't know who he is.
Bruh, I mean, I think that you
that?
might have a different definition. I think that you might have a different conception of God than most other Christians I've talked to, because this is a new one for me.
Well, no, every Christian who's knowledgeable about what and who God is will agree with me. No, there's no Christian that believes God.
You want to know
inanimate.
something funny, Parks Place? Every single Christian I have ever talked to tells me the same thing. Every Christian, every single one of you people tells me that they have the true understanding of Christianity, and that all these other Christians that disagree with them are just misunderstanding it. And if they had the knowledge, then they would agree with them. That's what every single Christian believes. So,
what is your point?
Why do you think that you have the true understanding of this religion that everybody is disagreeing about? Like, I'm telling you, man, I do not think that you have a majority opinion here when you think that God is alive. Maybe I'm wrong. You know, I was never a Christian.
You definitely are wrong.
But I'm gonna ask more Christians that appear on this channel now if they think God is alive, and I'm willing to bet that you're gonna be one of the only ones that says yes.
I promise you, I won't. Like, that doesn't even make sense. So, do you think that Christians believe God is inanimate, or like?
No, they believe that he's like. I talk to Christians that believe that he's like even above an agent. He's not even an agent. He's so all powerful and so mysterious and not understanding. Like, they would never say that he's alive. They say God created life. He is not life himself.
No, he is life. I am the life. That it says it in the Bible.
I am the life is not the same thing as saying, like, that's saying that. Do you understand that? Like, saying that I am the life is not saying as I'm alive. Those are two different words, two different meanings, right? Like, saying I am the life is trying to tell you I am the path of the life that you should lead, right? Saying that the way of Christianity, the life, is like the good life that you should lead as a Christian.
You're explaining to me what it
Yeah, because you don't seem to understand your own religion, bro. I'm trying to educate you on this. You're trying to tell me that, like, God is a biological entity.
Jesus said, I am the truth. I'm the way, the truth, and the life. I am the
dude,
life.
That is not alive, bro. Those are different Greek words. Do you understand that?
Okay.
You understand that those are not synonymous, that those don't mean the same thing? Like, you are fundamentally misreading your own religious text right now. You should probably talk to a priest about that.
I don't believe in priests, but
well, then where are you getting this information from? Like, you think that
God himself.
So you think that you have the property authority to interpret a 2,500-year-old text?
I think the Holy Spirit does.
Man, so then if two people disagree and one person says, well, the Holy Spirit is telling me this, and the Holy Spirit is telling the other guy the opposite, then how do you tell who's right and who's wrong?
Either one person is right or they're both wrong.
But how do you tell?
Discernment?
Like,
I don't know.
Well, they both are saying that the Holy Spirit has given them the answer and that theirs is the true understanding and that the other person is wrong. So, like, if they both are believing that the Holy Spirit is giving them the answer.
Scripture, if it aligns with the scripture, then it's correct. If it doesn't, then it's incorrect.
Okay, so then what you just told me about God being alive does not align with the scripture. right? There's no
God
sentence
is
where
the
God
life.
says, I am alive.
God is the life.
Yeah, that is
The
a
life.
different, that is a meaningfully different phrase. Like I don't understand why you're laughing at this. Like, if I told you, if he said, hey, is that person alive? And I said, that person is the life. You'd look at me like, what are you talking about, dude? That's not what I asked.
Yes, because that's only one person can say that, and that's God himself.
Oh, so it's a special pleading fallacy.
Sure. It's
Okay.
not fallacious. It's not fallacious because there's only one that's eternal. So
So okay,
it's not a fallacious
okay, so this is
argument.
perfect. This is perfect because you just showed us that God is not alive. Because all of us are alive, but there's only one of us who is the life, and that is different than being alive. You just said that.
What?
You literally just said, dude, all of us are alive, but only one entity,
No,
God, is the
God is
life.
alive. No, God is alive as well. He is the life. He's the
Okay,
living
so then
being. So
where in
he's
the Bible does
eternal.
it say? Where is it?
He's
Because you just made
eternally
it.
living.
Listen, Park Place. You just made a distinction between the life and alive when I'm talking about other people. You said only God is the life and he's alive. So now I'm asking you, where in scripture does it say that God is both the life and alive? Because
I
you
could
just
probably
said that they don't mean the same thing when we're talking to other people.
no. You're miss. I think you might be misinterpreting what I'm saying. I
I don't
said
think that
that
I think that you're
you
misinterpreting what I'm
let
asking you.
well maybe let me repeat it back to you and you
No,
tell
let
me
me
what.
repeat it back to you because I think this is where the misunderstanding is. When I
Go
pointed
ahead.
out to you and I said, is that person alive? Or is that person the life? And you said there's only one entity in the universe that is the life, and that's God. So you clearly said that it's not the same thing to ask, is that person alive versus is that person the life? So that means that in the Bible, when it says that God is the life, that means that they're saying it in the sense that it doesn't apply to that person that's alive. They're saying that God is the life, not that God is alive. So you're saying that God is both. So you need to demonstrate that with some passage from the Bible.
Okay, well, a couple things. The distinction between being alive and the life means that or the distinction is if someone is the life, that means they are the origin of life. If someone is
Okay.
alive, it means that they possess this
Perfect.
attribute of living,
Perfect.
right? And
Yes,
so,
I agree.
okay, great. So I'm saying that that's
So
the
when it
distinction.
says that
It
God is
doesn't
the
mean
life, it's not saying that
that.
God is alive. It's saying that he's the
Well,
origin of life, which is what I've been saying this whole time, right?
well, he is the origin, and he's also living. It says that in many
Well, no,
passages.
no. Where does it say that though? Because it says that he's the life. It doesn't say that he's living.
Oh, hold on a second. Let me go. Let me find
Okay,
it.
yeah, that's what I'm asking for this whole time because all the Christians that I talk to, Parks Place, tell me that
All
God
right,
exists outside of time and
Revelation
space.
1:18. Revelation 1:18. Jesus says,
Uh-huh.
I am the living one. I am the living one. I was dead, and behold, I'm alive forever.
So Jesus is alive. Is the Father alive? Because he
Yes.
said he was dead.
It says John 6:57 says, as the living Father sent me, as the living Father sent me.
Okay. So interesting. So you're saying
Like I say,
that
I think
that
you're
God
misunderstanding.
that Jesus is alive as being like a form of biological life,
No,
which
I what?
means that no, you said that he's alive. That's a form of
Yeah,
biological life.
I said. Oh yeah, of course, because he
So
took on
you're saying
flesh.
that
But
Jesus is a non-physical, biologically living entity, that he doesn't
no,
have a physical body, but he is alive in the same sense that we're alive.
no. So this is what Christians believe. This is what the Bible teaches.
This isn't what
That
you believe?
I'm a Christian, so yes.
Okay, then why are you just okay? I was trying to ask if you
Well,
agree, and you're trying to be cagey about it. Like,
oh no.
so
So
you think
I'm
that
about to tell you what I
Jesus was
believe.
a non-physical living thing?
Well, let me explain. Jesus, his nature, he's existed, he's been alive as a spiritual being. He was not a physical being until he took on flesh. And once he took
Yeah,
on flesh, now he
but
has a body.
he's still a like a biologic. He's a living thing. even
He's
before.
God is living. Yes, so God is the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit,
Wow.
and they're living.
So you
And
think
it
that you
says
don't
that
even
many
need
times.
space or time or matter to be alive?
Nope.
Well, I gotta say that's like one of the craziest things I've ever heard, man.
Like I
I mean,
said,
I don't even know. Like, I mean, okay. Can you at least acknowledge that this entire time when I've been talking about life, I've been talking about biological life, which is the kind of life that is important for the kind of life, for the argument that we're having about abiogenesis. The kind of life you're talking about isn't really the kind of life that's important for this discussion, right? Your definition, like,
no, I
you're saying,
disagree.
well, you're saying that your first premise was that life only comes from life. But obviously, that's not true because God didn't come from
No, I
anywhere,
didn't say
according to
life.
your definition.
I didn't say life only comes from life. P1 is every verified example of life beginning to exist. God did not begin to exist.
Okay, so Jesus began to exist, right, as life?
No, no.
But you said that he
He
was dead and now he's not. So that one point he
what?
began as life.
No. So I was trying
It
to explain
literally
to you.
said in your chapter, "I was dead, now I'm not.
You
Therefore, he
you want me to
began his
explain to
life."
you? No.
This just follows logically.
Jesus existed as the Word of God eternally. He took
And he
on
was alive.
flesh.
He was
Yes,
alive for that.
he was alive then. Yes,
Okay.
and he took on flesh and became a living biological being. He took on flesh. He became a human being.
Wait. But
Um,
he was already alive before then.
he was already alive before then. He took on
Yeah.
flesh, and so he took on a different type of existence, a
Uh huh.
biological one.
Okay.
He didn't give up his eternal existence.
Yeah. Okay. Makes 100% sense.
And so when it said that he died, that is talking about his physical body.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Okay. So then
Because
he's still
God
alive,
cannot
even
die.
though he was dead but alive in your position.
He was dead in a certain particular
So you are the
context.
one. Okay. So you're violating the law of non-contradiction, right? Because he's both
How so?
alive and dead.
He's dead in a particular context. Just like if someone's brain dead, they're dead in a particular
Yeah.
context.
They're
So
not
that
dead though.
exactly.
Yeah,
That's
but
what I'm
no,
saying.
you're saying that, and the Bible didn't specify about the context, right? The Bible just said he was dead, now he's alive forever. So,
Yes, it
okay.
was
So
talking about
you have
that.
to
It
read
did
between the
specify.
lines and you had to add in your own kind of words onto the biblical text there. You had to
No, you
say
just have
like,
to
oh, what
you
the
just have to
Bible
understand
meant,
scripture.
what the Bible meant was that he was dead in the body. They didn't mean that he was actually dead.
You just have to understand
Because
scripture.
or do you just think that death is not the opposite of life? Because Jesus died, but he was still alive, according to you.
No,
Because you
so
said that God's a living
death
thing. You said God's a
death
living thing, but Jesus died, but he never stopped living.
yeah, so death
You see how
I,
this doesn't make any sense?
well well it doesn't, of course it doesn't make any sense to you because you don't understand scripture, and you've demonstrated that because you didn't even know that God was alive.
Yeah, because it makes no sense for God to be alive. Like, look, when we're talking about abiogenesis, and we're talking about the origins of life, I'm not talking about your freaking God, energy, spiritual life. Like, that's a different definition than what any biologist would accept for the context of abiogenesis, right? So, like, I'm giving you verified example of life coming from non-life. You're saying, oh, well, actually, I have this crazy definition of life that is non-biological life. Like, that's what it is. You have a
No,
definition of life that's non-biological.
I'm saying that even biologists uh, even they can't give a comprehensive definition of life.
That doesn't mean that you could just insert yours into it. That's a little God of the gaps argument.
No, that's not what I'm doing. So
Well, you're saying that there's a
what
gap.
I'm saying,
You're saying that there's a gap, and there's not a consensus about the definition of life. There's a gap. And so you are then actually just inserting your God into that gap. You're saying, look, there's a gap about what life is. So I am just inserting my God as alive into that gap. That's literally the definition of a God of the gaps.
what can I explain to you what's actually going on?
Yeah.
Okay. You said that life cannot exist in a certain state, in a certain in a plasmic state. And I'm
Yeah.
saying since you're making that claim, you have to, number one,
Yes.
define life.
Sure.
And I'm saying
Which I
that
did.
you cannot give a comprehensive definition of life. And neither do biologists.
Okay.
Even you said life, we don't exactly know what it is. We have an idea. And so for you to say that life cannot be in a certain state, again, I'm still wondering how you're going to demonstrate that. You still haven't.
Right. I'm going off of biology. Okay, I'm going off of biological life. I'm not talking about no, spirit energy life, because I don't think that's a thing. You're saying, well, how do you know that's a thing? Because there's no evidence suggesting that that's a thing. And
Yes,
we should
but
expect there to be evidence of that if it was a thing. We should expect there to be evidence for this non-biological life that you're talking about. But when you're asking me about my definitions of life and you're asking me about the origins of life, guess what? I'm going to be talking about biological life. That kind of life that is the actual study of everyone's, who talks about life. So, yeah, you're the one doing, incredibly weird, unorthodox, examples that literally are unique to you. Like, these arguments are not effective because you have a different definition of what life is than biology.
okay, again, you still haven't demonstrated your actual counter argument. But
Okay, my
let's
actual counter argument here, according to the field of biology, which is the study of life, all life must necessarily meet certain criteria. That's not there's no differing consensus about that. That is 100%. Everybody agrees on that. And all of those criteria are physical. And all accepted examples of life are composed of atoms, every single one. And so it cannot be that the life that we understand in biology can exist in a plasma. That is enough to demonstrate it to any reasonable person.
Well, again, your refutation of premise one wasn't about you didn't. So premise one is not talking about biology. I said life.
Bro, that's talking about biology to me. If you say life and you're saying I wasn't talking about biology, that's stupid. And I can't even engage with you at that point. Because if you're saying that life, if you're not talking about biology when you're talking about life, then we cannot even talk about the same thing, right?
Yeah,
When I'm talking about
I'm
life,
talking about
I
life in
am
general.
clearly talking about biology. There's not a second type of life that I could be talking about.
Yeah, I'm just talking about life in general. But
Talking about biological life. There's no other type of life that we could meaningly be referring to in this context.
do you want to move on to the other two topics we're discussing? We're talking about time and nothing coming from something.
How are you feeling right now, Justin? Have you been keeping up with this?
Yeah, I'm keeping up with it. I'm
How's the
feeling
chat?
I'm feeling
How's
fine.
the chat feeling? Are they engaged with this discussion? Everything? Everybody having a good time? I haven't really
Yeah,
been.
there's
Obviously, I can't
debates
follow.
that are breaking out in the chat.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
And
obviously, I can't really follow the chat along right now.
no, we're in good shape. I think the only thing to consider is your battery life at this point. Um,
Cool.
but yeah, you guys are free to continue. We don't have anybody in the queue waiting to come on.
Cool.
But I'll
Cool.
take this opportunity real quick to do some housekeeping here and just remind everyone who's out there watching. Thanks so much for your support. But if you've got the time and you've got the energy, go ahead and tickle that like button. We would appreciate that very, very much. Um, Also, if you're watching this in the future, feel free to leave a comment down below in the comment section, and let Grayson know what you think of the job he's doing. We would
Yeah.
greatly appreciate that. Grayson's probably just about ready to fill up another bag here, so we're going to be looking for another name in a super chat. If
Yes,
anybody's
sir.
got an idea what to name this garbage bag, just super chat away. But yeah, gentlemen, by all means, assuming you've got the battery life, Grayson, carry on.
I think I should be good. So, where were you want to talk about next? You said time.
Well, so you had mentioned something about creation ex nihilo, out of nothing.
Yes.
And you said that was possible, and so I posed a syllogism to you. I said that P1, nothing, has no properties. P2, every source has the property of origin, has the property of origin. And conclusion, therefore, nothing cannot be a source.
What's an example of a source that we would both agree on?
An example of a source.
So I'm saying that I can't think of any example of anything being created ex nihilo. If you're saying that there are,
So parents being the source of their kids.
oh, well, that's not really a source of ex nihilo creation, is it? That's just rearranging pre-existing material.
Yes, I don't believe ex nihilo is possible. Are you saying you don't either?
Well, I think it's possible, but I just don't have any reason to think that it's occurred. Like, I just don't see it as being like impossible. I just don't have a good reason to think it's impossible, but I just leave it open as a possibility, but I just don't, I don't have any example. I'm just saying, like,
Well, as
I don't
I
know.
mentioned, it has to be impossible because nothing has no properties. It lacks all properties, and every source, a source has the property of being an originator. So therefore, nothing cannot be a source. So that's why, but logically, it's impossible.
Yeah, I just feel like you probably have some some weird definition of what it means to have properties as some sort of like non-physical thing. Like, is my intuition on that correct? Or like, because if I'm thinking like,
A property, I just mean like a characteristic. I think we probably have a similar definition of properties.
okay, well, so you don't believe that properties are like abstract things that exist on them by themselves or something?
Do
So
I
like, I'm
believe
just trying to think
properties?
about what it means for like, you're saying that, oh, well, like all sources are sources. Like they have the property of being a source, and therefore nothingness cannot be a source because it's like, it just feels like it's like a semantic kind of like, like what, in your opinion, what does it mean to have a property? Because I would say that nothingness
An
is
attribute
dimensionless.
or a characteristic, or something that describes it.
So like the characteristic would just be like, I just don't know, if is being a source a characteristic. I don't really see that. I mean, it's an action, right? It's creating. It's an action. Is that something that is like a property, a characteristic that something has?
Yeah, I would say being the originator, the creator. I would say that's a characteristic or an attribute.
Yeah, I just don't know what that means physically. Like, is there like
You don't know what it
any?
means to create physically?
No, I'm talking about having a characteristic or an attribute. It just seems like it's like a thing is the way that it is, and then we describe it by listing these attributes that it has. And
Well,
like,
are you saying physically? Are you saying physically that that properties need to be physical?
well, like, it's just weird to me, like, because nothingness is dimensionless, so it's zero dimensional. So that is a property, right? Like,
No, that's a
if
lack of a
being,
property.
well, being zero dimensional is a property. That's not just lacking, like you are zero dimensional. That's a property of something, right? Like if you're
It
listing
means
the
that it
properties that something
lacks.
has, if you're listing the properties that something has, the property of being zero dimensional is one of the important things that you should list,
If you're listing a property, and like, so for instance, I don't have the property of being 10 feet tall. That's so one of my properties is not the fact that I'm not 10 feet tall. Is that's a lack of a
Yeah,
property.
I would say like there's like negative properties versus positive properties. But like, is being zero dimensional a negative property or a positive property?
So what is it? What's an attribute to you?
Like, this is what's something that's like difficult to describe, right? I mean, like, because we're just using synonyms. An attribute is a property or a characteristic, blah blah blah. But it's just like, it's hard for me to get at what this means in
Would you
regard
say?
to something like nothingness. Like what does it mean because
Would
it's
you say
very
that
easy to
not being
conceive. It's very easy to conceive of something coming to existence from nothingness, right? Like it's easy to conceive of. Like I'm not sure if there's any. I don't think there's any
would you say
logical
that not
violations with
being
that.
would you say that not being square is a property of water?
It's a
Not
negative
not being
property of it.
in describing water, you would list the negative properties. I'm not understanding.
No, but I would say it's three-dimensional. Just like if I would list how many dimensions it has, I would list if something is zero-dimensional. Like in physics, there are zero-dimensional fields that are listed in like Neil Turok's theories or whatever, and one of the properties is that it's zero-dimensional. Like that is a useful property of the field that needs to be understood. So like I just don't know like
Yeah, I think
what
what you're listing
it,
are just lacks. Are these? I think the things you're listing is what I described in P1, which is they lack properties. So you're saying that it doesn't have a dimension, so it lacks the property of a dimension. So I think that goes along with P1.
I guess I mean
So
maybe it's just a different way of phrasing it, zero-dimensional versus lacking dimension, but like
so P1 will say that nothing lacks all property. So any property you can think of, it does not have it.
yeah, spaceless, timeless. It's
Nothing
like
else lacks
it's all
all.
negative properties. I agree. Like
Mhm.
I agree with you about the concept of nothingness. And so it just seems kind of like I don't know,
So
kind of
every
like a
source has
semantic
a
argument
property.
because then it's like if we have state 1 nothingness and then state 2 like a universe is created ex nihilo or whatever, then it's like you're trying to say that would mean that nothingness has the positive property of being a source, which is impossible for nothingness to have that property, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to think of like, is this
It
really
would mean that
like
it
it
would
just
mean
seems
that
like it doesn't seem like there's any ontological change in status of something having the property of being a source versus not having the property of being a source. It seems like there's not actually like there's not a meaningful like that's not a meaningful property to have, right? Is what it just seems to me to be the case. Because it doesn't change anything about the state of affairs about if something does or does not have this property, right?
I didn't get the last part. You said it doesn't change what?
Like I just don't think it changed. Like what you're saying that the parents have the property of being the source for the child, right? But the
The
actual
critic.
source of the child was there's multiple sources of the child, right? There is not just one thing that has the property of the source of that child, right? Because all of the material that was made of that child is also a source of that child, right?
No.
Well, all of the atoms
Are
that
we seriously
compose
going to
that
argue that?
child are a source for that child, right?
Well, do you know how children come into existence?
Yes. They are
Okay, so
formed from pre-existing material. Would that pre-existing material not count as a source for that child?
yes, and they come from two distinct people, correct?
No. It comes
Okay.
from like not from their material. It's from material that's incorporated from the diet that the woman eats. So then the food also has the property of being a source? Is that what you're saying?
No.
So why not? If the food has the atoms that eventually become the child, then that food is the source of that child, right? Or at least a source, yes?
No.
Why does the food not have that property of being a source?
So and I guess I'm gonna have to explain this to you. When sperm and egg meet,
I know all
um,
that, dude. I'm very aware of all that. Okay, you don't need to treat me like an idiot here. I probably have a better understanding of evolutionary development than you do. So just tell me when I'm telling you, right, that when a woman eats food in her pregnancy, that food, the molecules of that food are broken down and then incorporated to become the material of that baby. So that baby's material is sourced in the food that the mother is eating. So the food that she eats has the property of being a source for the child.
So let me look at it this way. When you're writing
If
a
you
paper
disagree with
and
that, I
you
want
have
to know why.
well, because that's not the way we use when we use the term source, we're not talking about all the things that make it up or make up. So for example, let me just give you an example. If you're writing a
So then
paper
nothing wouldn't. So
and
then
you
the
have to
property of
list.
being a source. Okay, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Go on.
Okay, so if you're writing a paper and you have to list your sources, you list the place where you got the information from, right?
Yeah.
That wherever you got the information from, they may have gotten it from other. They surely have gotten it themselves from other places, whether it's Wikipedia or whatever. You wouldn't say that all things are the source of. You would say the source is Wikipedia or the source is whatever. You would list the source. So when I say source, I'm using it in that context. I'm not saying
So
that
you're
all the
using it
things
as
that.
in a citation. So then I am not the. Then my parents are not the source for me. Like they're not. I'm not citing my parents as a work cited. So then obviously you don't mean that context. You mean a different kind of context.
I don't mean citation. That's not what
Well,
I'm
that's what
saying.
that was the example that you said. It was a work cited, like as your
Yes, I
sources.
was giving an example.
Well,
So
I'm asking. You
would you
said that's the kind
say?
of context that you meant, but now you're saying it's not the kind of context you meant.
Yeah, let me explain to you. Would you say that um, if I list Wikipedia as a source, that Wikipedia is not actually the source?
What are you fucking talking about, dude? Ask me a coherent question.
You didn't understand that? If I'm writing a
Obviously,
paper,
everyone understands what you're asking about. You just need to make it to the point because, yes, if you list Wikipedia as a source, then that's your source. Obviously, can we
okay.
move past the points of obvious agreement and like just make the point you're making?
Would you consider Wiki? My point is that listing Wikipedia as a source is a legitimate source because that's where I got my information from.
Yes.
And so, in
Yes.
the context of a human being, they got their DNA from both parents. They didn't get it from the
That's
food.
not the
They didn't
only
get it from anything
information, though.
else.
That's not sufficient to form me. The information contained in my DNA that is inherited by my parents is not sufficient to form the person I am today.
Sure, but
There's much more information that needs
all
to
of the
be.
information they got
Yes.
from the mother and the father.
No. Incorrect.
Where'd they get it from?
The environment around me has a huge impact upon my development in terms of like things that are even more important than my genetics. In terms of my
I'm not
genetic
talking.
expression,
I'm not
my
talking about
environment
development.
my environment is a source of the information for me, dude. So
I'm
your
not talking
own
about
definition,
development. You're
well,
talking about
you're talking
development. I'm
about the
not talking about
source for
development.
who I am.
No, I'm talking
And I'm
about
telling you, the source for who I
your
am,
physical makeup.
yes. And
Are
I'm
you
telling you,
composed?
my physical makeup is more so than just like the actual instructions or whatever for who I am involves more information than came from just my parents in the most strict biological sense. Like it does come from the surrounding environment as well, like straight up from the beginning, like from my birth. So like this is not like a coherent concept. This whole concept that you have of sources, it doesn't even,
What do
you
you?
can't even provide one example where it even makes sense.
I just did. You're disagreeing, but you're not offering any rational reason for why you're disagreeing.
I just went through it all. Can you even repeat back to me what I just told you? Because I just gave you the rational reason. It just doesn't sound like you're listening.
Okay, well, maybe I got it wrong. So I'll repeat it back to you. You correct me. You're saying that you, Grayson,
Yeah.
that you're made up of more than just the genetic material that you receive from your parents, because there's other environmental factors, food or whatever, well, whatever else that you want to add in there. Make up Grayson. Is that correct?
No, not necessarily. I wasn't making it like a compositional argument. I'm saying the actual information telling my molecules how to form me. The actual information is sourced from not just my parents and not just my DNA. You need actual, like, it's the actual idiosyncrasies of the positions of all these molecules and how they fuse, which controls things that are very critical about my gene expression. The kinds of concentration gradients, the placements of freckles, all these little things about me. Like you can have two people with the same parents, identical twins. They develop similar but different. And the differences in their development, and not just their development, but like when they're born, they're still not perfectly identical, because the information that is sourced to generate the unique individual comes from more than just the parents. It's also idiosyncrasies about the environment. That's
Okay.
my point.
So I'm simply in my syllogism. I'm simply saying that a source that has the property of origin. So if you're disagreeing with the example of a child coming from the parents, okay, I'll use a different example. We can say that an idea came from somebody. Somebody, this idea came from John. The idea for the idea for a show came from John, right? He is the source of this idea, this thought.
Okay, so you're saying
It
that
originates with the, he's the originator, pretty much.
yeah, there's lots of things that are the source for that idea, though, not just John, right? Because John was in a particular context when he had that idea. Like, if you ask me, oh, what's the source of this idea? And what's the source of Star Wars? I could tell you, oh, well, George Lucas came up with it while he was watching an Akira Kurosawa movie, and like, it was this exact context that was the source of the idea. Like, I just don't think you can divorce the individual from the context that they carry the idea and then say that guy is the source, when really the source was the entire context that led him to the idea. So I don't know, it just feels like a little language game where you're saying, oh, well, George Lucas is the source of Star Wars, and therefore we can interpret the way that we attribute linguistic properties to things, we can extrapolate that about the nature of the entire creation of the universe.
Yeah, I think if you continue along that train of thought, I think you will ultimately end up making my point for me. My point is that nothing ever originates back to no thing ever originates back to nothing.
Well, yeah, that's my first position. That's my very first statement.
Which is why I'm just demonstrating that it's impossible. And I think even your objections to some of the P2 is demonstrating that as well. So I think maybe we're on the same page. Maybe we don't need to belabor this point.
I mean, you're just saying that I agree with you, even though I don't. That's not the way to end the argument.
Well, okay. Well, can you give me an example? So, are you saying that So you're saying that a thought that I have did not originate with me? It originated. Where did the thought originate?
In their whole context, right? Like when I had a good idea, right? No man is an island. I didn't just come up with this thought independent of everything else. I was in a specific context, and there were specific causes about where that thought came from, that, again, why it occurred to me then and there. And it's the whole thing about the source of that thought. It's not just me, because then you're ignoring all the context, right? That's over reductionistic. But anyways, this is just like, one of the things that kind of annoys me about talking with you specifically is that every time that we have a discussion about literally anything, it always just devolves into like us disagreeing about the definition of a word that's tangential to what we're even disagreeing about. Like every single time I talk with you, we end up going about like, oh, like what is time even? What's the definition of nothing? It's just like, it never feels like you ever make the point you wanted to make.
Well, I think it's you who's doing that, because everybody else would understand what originate means. It means to come into existence, to begin. You're saying this thought does not begin with me; it begins somewhere else, and I'm asking you to explain what you mean. What do you mean it begins somewhere else? Do you know what
I feel like
means?
every single time I give you a very thorough answer to your question, every time I give you a thorough answer, you always say, why can't you just answer? Like, I just explained to you why you cannot divorce and why it's overly reductionistic to reduce the actual complexity of the world into, oh, that idea happened to this individual, and just ignore the complete context of the actual source for that idea. Because guess what? George Lucas wouldn't have had the idea for Star Wars if it wasn't for the exact context that he was in. Like, It's
But
not
it
just
still
like you
began. It still began.
you cannot just reduce the entire idea and say that idea just came from George Lucas and just ignore the rest of the context. It's overly simplistic, it's overly reductionistic, and you lose too much of the actual truth of the like what happened in the real world about where the source of that idea actually was coming from.
Well,
So I just think that
let me
it's
just
not
share
helpful.
my opinion. All I'm saying is that the idea of Star Wars, using your example, the idea of Star Wars was not in existence before a certain point. Would you agree or disagree?
Yeah,
Okay. At some point, this idea came into existence. Would you agree or disagree?
sure.
Okay. And so to originate means to come into existence.
I'm not
Wherever,
disagreeing with you about what originate means.
great. And so that's what origin means. That's what I'm saying. It came into existence at
Yeah,
this point in time
sure.
through something. And that whoever or wherever it came into existence, that is the source.
Yeah, that's what we're disagreeing about. Is like we're not disagreeing about what it means to originate. We're disagreeing about the way that you are trying to attribute source, the property of source. I think is a fallacious way to attribute it, and it's overly reductionistic, and it loses the actual true state of affairs. That's been my point, and it doesn't seem like you've really understood that that's the point I've been trying to make this whole time. That I'm saying that you cannot just say like if you're trying to like literally you're not just trying to in just a casual context say that George Lucas came up with Star Wars. You're trying to use this property of being a source to extrapolate about the nature of the origin for the entire universe. So we have to be pretty precise here about what we mean. We can't just be casual about our use of language. When we say that George Lucas is the source for Star Wars, that's too reductionistic because it's like he did not come up with that idea on his own. He would not have come up with the idea if he was divorced from the context and his influences and things like that. So yes, you could say that the idea originated in George Lucas's brain. That's not what we were arguing about. We were arguing about whether or not George Lucas, you could attribute this metaphysical property of source to George Lucas while ignoring all the other factors that led to the inception of that idea, which I say that you cannot do if you're trying to like have some sort of principle that you can then extrapolate to the whole universe. I'm saying that you really can't do that in that context. But I filled up a third trash bag. So Justin, do we have any names?
So we don't have really any names. However, Robin Webster did send
Justin, you
a
there?
$5 super chat.
He might have stepped away to the bathroom or something.
What? I'm here,
Well,
bud.
while we wait for that,
I'm here,
Hey,
guys.
Grayson.
yes.
Yeah, he's talking. Can you not hear him?
I cannot hear Justin at all.
Oh, weird. Well, thanks, Park Place.
I can hear you though.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hold on. So he's I think he's
Why?
gonna try to.
What? How
Yeah,
weird is that he can hear you but not me?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Yeah. So Justin is talking, but you can't hear him. So I can let you know when he finishes talking. I think he's gonna read some super chats or something like that.
Yeah. So,
I
you
wonder
can
why I
just,
can't hear Justin. Do I have it on mute or something?
I don't know. That's weird. Here, I'm gonna try removing myself and adding myself back.
Okay. He says he's removing himself and adding himself back.
Can you hear me now, Grayson?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. Weird. That's so strange that you would hear one of us and not the other one.
Right?
Anyways,
It's like I've never had any of these issues in StreamYard before, but of course we're all gonna have them now.
yeah. Anyways, we don't have a super chat to name a trash bag. However, Robin Webster does send $5 and her regards, saying you're doing a great job, Grayson, and I would agree. And I don't think anybody would
Nice.
disagree with that.
If Robin, if you're still hanging out in the chat, you do have the naming rights for that third trash bag. So any name, Robin, that you want to give us, you will get priority. If not, by the time I get this new one on, it kind of takes a little long, but by the time I get this new trash bag on, then we can let Justin pick the name if nobody else.
So Top Dog has been in your chat since we went live. They've been here
Nice.
hanging out since we went live, and their recommendation for a bag name was bag of theist arguments.
Okay.
So we could always go that route.
Yeah.
Um,
If Robin does not give us a suggestion here, that's a great alternative.
yeah. In any
How long
case,
have we been going, Justin, by the way?
yeah. So like we're coming up. We're 15 minutes shy of 2.5 hours.
Oh wow. How does the time go by so quick?
Yeah,
We've
really.
only got
Right.
we've only got 3 trash bags now, but if I do just a little quick walkthrough, I mean, we're making some decent progress over here. The plastic that was in the most danger zone.
Mhm.
Here, you know, I don't know. Are you seeing progress?
I mean, there's a dent.
I think that
Um,
there's a dent over here, over there. We're
yeah.
making a little bit
You
of
know what?
progress here.
This is a great location, though. So I mean, it could easily become like, part 2, and
Yeah, true.
maybe even part 3. There's a couple items in that pile that look like it's going to take 2
I
hands and a
mean,
couple of
like,
grunts
look
to
at
get out.
this. I'm not going for this metal rusted chair right here. This is,
Right.
this
Well,
is
you could.
staying.
I don't know what the deal is in the States, but that piece of metal here would be worth money at a recycling center. Just saying.
Well, I'm just basically my highest priority is to get the plastic items because those are the ones that are going to do the most, harm.
Right.
So, anyways, yeah, Park Place. I really do appreciate you calling in, man. I'm getting a little bit annoyed and frustrated. I'm sorry about that, but I still love arguing. I think that you do too. I think it's probably safe to say. But I enjoy these conversations. The whole reason, or not the whole reason, but one of the reasons why I really like this whole idea of these open call-in debates is like Socrates is one of the historical figures that I really like and admire. And if you guys have read anything about Socrates' life, like especially in the tellings of Xenophon, he talks about how Socrates would go out in the public spaces and just kind of like pick arguments to have with people. Like he would just ask them, questions about their worldview and just keep following up with them, keep asking follow-up questions. And, that's one of the ways that Socrates refined his philosophy, his thinking, his ability to argue. And it's like, you know, one of my heroes, and I kind of consider the internet, YouTube debatosphere of nowadays to be kind of like the digital agora, if you will, of ancient Athens. It's like, the digital public meeting space where we can all come together and discuss our ideas and, refine our thinking, shore up any potential holes, learn new things from each other. So, welcome to the digital agora. And thank you guys for being here and having these discussions. I really enjoy them. And
Yeah, yeah.
like I said, it's been 2.5 hours. It really feels like it's only been like an hour from my point of view. Like it goes by so much faster whenever I have somebody to talk to.
Yeah, I appreciate you allowing me to come up and discuss. I like I like discussions. I like rational discourse and the ability, like you said, just to flesh out our ideas and to just think critically.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been real fun listening to both of you, actually. And you can tell that you guys have been doing this together for a while. And dare I say, Park Place, you should definitely come back and spend some more time on Trash Talk with Grayson and continue other discussions and other topics.
Is this a every Saturday?
Yep. The goal is to
the
do this
goal,
every
weather
Saturday.
permitting, as long as
Yeah, the
Grayson can
weather
find
permitting.
trash.
Yeah, as long as I'm able to keep finding more trash, and yeah, weather permitting, my goal is to do this at the same time every week.
Yeah. For the record, we're not advocating for you guys to go out and make piles of trash for Grayson. I think it would be pretty cool if Grayson couldn't find any trash one weekend.
Like there's like especially I feel like there's I spent some of the year in Texas and I like San Diego. It's my favorite city just because of the weather. So I feel like there's more places I find trash in Texas than in California actually, which you guys are not really seeing that because you guys are literally only seeing like the trashiest places that I can find. But there's really I do have to actually look pretty hard to find like this much trash. Usually it's like, I would have to walk maybe a mile and pick up a couple pieces along the beach or Oh, wow. I didn't find my phone, but
Oh,
I
you found
found
a
a
phone.
phone. Yeah. Look at that. Motorola. Yep.
Motorola.
It's a whole phone case and everything. There's the screen is hanging off of it. Well, I'm sure that you were somebody's good phone. I wish I had found my phone. Wouldn't that have been crazy right now if I found my phone from last week, like come out of this drain? Ooh,
All right,
Are
gross.
those
Grayson.
barnacles on the side of that drain?
Yes, they
Wow.
are.
Grayson,
Because we're
I'm
so
gonna log
close.
off. I'm
All
log off.
right. Hey, thanks for calling in, man. I hope that you come back in one of the future episodes.
All right, man. Sounds good. I appreciate you both.
But yeah,
Bye,
those are
Barclays.
barnacles because we're so close to the ocean. Actually, when I got here, before I turned on the camera, there were a bunch of little crabs that all skittered away as soon as I got here.
Crazy.
Oh man, I don't even know what that is.
Yeah. A Prender is asking, did you lose your phone? And like, so, yeah, if you were here at the beginning of this live stream, Grayson told the story of how when he ended the live stream last week, he lost his phone down a hole.
Yep. It was like actually like maybe the most comically bad luck I've had in like years.
Yeah.
I don't remember the last time I had like luck that was like that much of like a Three Stooges skit.
Well, since we're winding down, Grayson, I'll also let you know and the viewers know that Grayson made steps to try to make the stream go HD 1080p. But what Grayson doesn't know that I noticed right away when we went live is he didn't set the live stream to be for 1080. So we're still just in
Oh,
720.
oh, is that something that you were able to do on your end, Justin?
No, it's at the settings when you
Oh my
created the live
gosh.
stream.
Okay, I'll take the L on this one. I
But it's
definitely take the
okay.
L.
It's all right though. The discussions were great. The interactions were there. This is an excellent second episode, and I don't think anybody would disagree with that. Um, and I mean, just the act of what you're doing with trying to clean up around is pretty crazy. And actually, like as you've now wandered further around, because you were kind of in the same area for most of this live stream.
Yeah, I was over there.
Yeah, you're wandering around a little more, and I'm seeing even more of like, is that a mattress there?
Where?
Right in front of you, like behind you now.
Okay.
Is that like a mattress, like, or a blanket or something up against that pillar? What is it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it does kind of look like that, doesn't it?
Oh my god, it's nuts.
Yeah, that looks like a mattress.
Yeah, I
I'm
think this
not
is like a
I'm not
10-parter. You could do trash talk from this corner for like the next 5-6 episodes.
I don't know if I'm gonna be able to move that one.
It's probably somebody's home now. Like those crabs you mentioned earlier, maybe.
Yeah, probably all the crabs live in there. You know, and some of this stuff is less of a big deal than others. Like if it's like, I don't know, that could have some synthetic fibers in it, and then that could be a source of microplastics. But some of the cotton clothing I haven't wanted to pick up, like some of the stuff that doesn't look so synthetic. Yeah, I'm just like trying to make sure that none of this crap gets out into the ocean. That'd be the scenario to avoid.
Yeah. And then there's a cost for you to dump all this trash after too, right? When you take it to the proper disposal site.
No, so I kind of like was able to talk to this nice waste service company, and they were saying that they liked the idea of what I was doing, and they said that it'd be fine if it's like, you know, like less than a dozen bags of trash once a week. They said it's fine for me to just bring it by, and then they would
Oh,
take
that's
care of it.
awesome.
Yeah, so it's awesome. Like the biggest issue is just like, you know, taking all the trash bags, throwing a tarp down in my car, and then transporting it all is kind of a hassle. But it's you know, could be way worse.
Yeah, because I know like where I live, they charge by the pound, and like right now you're
Damn.
bagging up a lot of wet stuff, and I would just be like, that's a cost. Like
Oh yeah, if they
those
were
4
charging by the
bags all
pound.
wet would cost like 50 Canadian dollars here.
Damn. Okay, wow. No, that would be very disincentivizing. I'm just gonna try to fill up this last trash bag, basically.
All right.
We don't we if we don't, we can wind down the stream anytime if people seem like if they're ready. If there was not any questions in the live stream, like you can go ahead and treat this as like a ask me anything kind of a deal in the side chat, and Justin can always read your questions. But
yeah, if you got questions for Grayson there, put them in the chat. Just put at Yahooligan there, and I'll see them better, but I'll try to spot them either way. But in the meantime, I'll just remind everybody one more time that if you really like watching Grayson and what he's doing here with trash talk and picking up other people's garbage while picking up people's garbage arguments at the same time, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. And if you're watching this in the future too, make sure to interact in the comments section down below, because I know Grayson is real quick to respond to those comments. If you've got anything
I
to
love
add,
reading people's comments. Yeah.
yeah, make sure you put some comments down below. And yeah, this is an attempt at a weekly live stream here, so weather permitting. But Grayson lives in the sunshine. Well, not the Sunshine State, because that's Florida, I guess technically. But where you live is pretty warm, so
It's
I guess
I think it's better weather than Florida.
yeah. I'm just saying, like where I am, we still had a foot of snow like a week ago, so I'm a
So
little
for
jealous.
anyone that
to even
doesn't
just see
know,
grass right now.
Justin is currently broadcasting from the 51st state.
Yeah, fuck you. Just gonna put that like that.
Yeah,
Actually,
so
there's a massive
basically,
campaign here in Canada where they're selling shirts that are like that actually say not the 51st state. Like it's becoming a real huge thing. Like
dude,
if
I'm loving this honestly. Like
yeah, if you
it's
want
like
to find a positive spin to anything Trump does, Canada has never been closer and tighter, more
that's what I'm saying.
unified
It's like
on a topic.
the Canadian people are like coming together, they're unified, they're actually telling people to fuck off. Like they're like, it's not like the polite gloves have come off. Like Trump
Yeah.
has like given Canada a sort of national like zeal and patriotism for Canada that I don't think has been there for like maybe ever.
Yeah, I mean, Canadians have been always quietly proud of where they live.
Yeah.
When it's Canada Day, we do celebrate a day called Canada Day. The Canadian flags do come out and people go pretty hard. Some people dress head to toe in Canadian flag stuff. But
Wow.
you don't
I
drive
had
up
no
and
idea
down.
about that.
Yeah, but when you drive up and down the streets here in Canada, you wouldn't actually know where you were. Like if we were just to shoot footage of a regular Canadian road, it could be just any town, anywhere on the planet. Unlike in America, where like every second house has a flag hanging from it. Um, but yeah, like one of my favorite shirts that I've seen recently is that Canada's not for sale. Sorry. Which couldn't be a more Canadian shirt, frankly.
Yeah, sorry, not for sale.
Yeah, Canada not for sale. Sorry.
Yeah, it's going pretty crazy with that. It kind of feels like Trump's goals are like straight up either to like annex Canada or to just like forcibly conquer Greenland or to just like put enough pressure and bully Canada into like a free trade agreement or something that would be like economically the same thing as a state. Like it's just
Trump's playing a different game, right? So if the game of planet Earth was, coexistence and the future of humanity as a whole, Trump is like, nah, screw that. I just want America to win.
yep.
And like it's like playing a video game or even a board game of Risk, for example, where like, sure, you could just play the game for everybody to just coexist and have their space and live their lives. But there's always that one guy who wants to play for world domination.
Yep.
Um,
There's always that one guy who's just hiding out in Australia, just biding his time, not playing along with anybody on this one little land access continent, just waiting for him to just go in and take advantage of a situation.
yeah,
Sorry, I like got PTSD flashbacks to Risk.
yeah.
But no, I agree. Like he's not playing like he's like, oh, all that like we're all the same species. Like that's all hippie kumbaya bullshit.
Yeah,
And
he talks
actually,
about like
we just want to
national
win.
security for America, and so he needs Greenland. It's like, okay, listen, if you've got concerns, then work with Greenland. You don't need
Yeah.
to own it.
Well, we
And-
also already have a military base on Greenland that takes care of like all of our national security concerns about it. So
yeah,
that already exists. Like they already worked with us because America has fucking bases everywhere on Earth.
yeah. And I also really think it's really funny that suddenly Canada and Mexico are responsible for America's borders and what comes
Yeah.
across them. Um, it's a little bit kind of like, you know, the guy whose house is on fire and he's bitching at the neighbors for because their sprinkler system isn't strong enough to put the fire out on his
I mean,
house.
it's clearly just an excuse of like, what can I tell my base that sounds like maybe it's a good reason why I'm putting these sanctions on or these tariffs on Canada, and it's like, I mean, clearly everybody knows it's BS. Like the first thing he said was like fentanyl. It's like, dude, you're talking about Canada. Like
Yeah,
more drugs come from America to Canada that go the other way, and
yeah. Like less
and
than
then
1% of like America's fentanyl comes across the Canadian border.
yeah, and most of it comes across the border like at legal ports of entry. Like it's
Yeah,
not like it's just like illegal entrants are the ones that are
and
bringing
just
in the
brought
fentanyl.
in by other Americans.
Yeah,
On top
exactly.
of
It's
that,
brought in by Americans at legal points of entry. It's like so. It's literally everybody knows it's just an excuse.
yeah,
And it's like now he's moved on. Now that nobody's buying the whole fentanyl thing because it was always stupid. That not even his followers are stupid enough to believe that he's tariffing Canada because of fentanyl. Now his latest thing is that oh well, Canada's actually been doing economic warfare on us for decades and nobody said anything because it's really expensive for Canada to import U.S. milk and timber, and it's like okay, like that is now the excuse that Trump is coming up with to like literally
yeah.
wage a trade war is like
So,
they wouldn't buy our milk, so I had to do it to them.
yeah. So the milk topic is interesting actually because um, Canada actually has really strict and strong laws about dairy. And one thing that Canada does is they actually like mandate how much dairy our dairy producers can produce in order to avoid waste, right? So Canada only produces as much dairy as Canada needs. And then, however, extra more we can use to export. If anybody wants some, we'll make a little more and we'll sell it to you. The problem with dairy is you can only export it so far, right? Channel friend Robin Webster could probably tell us a whole lot about how important timing is when you're delivering dairy. Where on the opposite side of the coin, America here is like, let's just make our cows produce as much freaking milk as America can produce. Let's just
Yep.
make milk. And you guys are throwing away so much and wasting so much dairy, and
Well,
you're mad at Canada because we don't want to buy it.
well, overproduction famously never had any negative economic results, like
Right?
the like 1929 or anything.
um, yeah. So, I mean, what Trump is really mad about is that Canada is very efficient with its dairy production, and we try to not waste anyone's time and money. Where America is just like, milk all the cows, make them milk all day long, and we'll figure out where to put the milk later.
Yep, that sounds about right. And Trump is saying, "Oh, it's very mean, very unfair. You won't buy our milk." It's like,
We don't
okay.
need it. We make our own milk, and we make sure we're not making more than we need
So
or
what
more than we can
Trump
export.
Trump basically his position is that he wants the Canadian dairy industry to be done. He says you don't need your own dairy industry, Canada, because the U.S. makes enough milk for your needs. So you should just buy it from us instead of making it yourself. And if you don't want to do that, too bad. That's what Trump's position is.
Yeah, it's
It's
really,
it's
really
just
weird.
bullying. It's literally
Um,
just like he's doing like the fucking fascist bullying shit of our nearest allies.
yeah.
It's annoying. It's bullshit. It's like the
And
fucking history
the
will
whole
judge him
auto
for it.
industry as well is real. I mean,
That's true.
if anyone who, especially in Ontario, so the province that I live in, um, if you don't have a family member that works at an auto plant, you know someone very close to your family who does. Like everyone in Ontario, my whole family are GM employees or formerly, like they're all retired at this point. Um, Like every uncle, my dad, all supervisors at General Motors, at different departments, different areas. And luckily for me, they're all retired at this point. But um, this idea that you Americans don't need Canadian cars and things like that, it's like they're not Canadian cars. It's an American car company. Just it's useful for those car companies to produce different parts in different areas because of, you know, it's easier to get the raw materials for them and stuff. Like 90% of the aluminum available on our continent comes from the province of Quebec. So, might as well just make some of those engine parts here in Canada and then ship them over to the States to do the next step. And a car can go across our border almost 8 times before it's finished. And if you put a 25% tariff on that, by the time a car is done, like I've been seeing these newscasts right now, like in Texas, for example, where pickup trucks are very popular.
Yep.
And an $80,000 pickup truck is now already $100,000. I think actually by the time where the calculations are done, when the first vehicle that's actually gone from the first stages of production to the final stages of production, it has crossed the border as many times as it's supposed to, and you apply a 25% tariff to that thing every single time it's gone across the border, I think it's going to be a lot more than just the $20,000 price increase on that truck.
Oh man, I really hope that we can just militarily conquer you guys before that happens.
Yeah, not going to happen.
I mean, I don't think it'll ever come to that point, but honestly, that would be like one of the biggest military
I mean,
disasters that it can. Like,
there's something else
can,
that I don't think Trump is considered either. Let's assume for a moment that Canada became a state. First of all, it would be way too big to be a state. It would have to be a couple of states.
yeah.
But according to your constitution, we would have as many electoral college votes as California does. So that would pretty much be the end of a Republican ever being president ever again.
Are you sure you don't want to be a state, Justin? Are you sure I can't convince
Uh,
you to want to become a state? Because that sounds pretty great.
No, it sounds terrible because we also like our healthcare just the way it is. I
Well,
mean,
look. Okay, you might lose all of your health care
we
and
also don't
like,
need or want your guns. Like we're
and
just
you'd
not.
lose like public education, and then you might also have like a mass shooting crisis
What do you mean
that
lose public
happens.
education?
Well, Trump is dissolving the Department of Public Education.
Oh right, okay, yeah.
And so, I mean, you might lose all this other stuff, but you'd get McDonald's, which I'm sure that nobody else has,
We have
and
McDonald's.
no, I'm sure, and then you'd get bragging rights of being part of the greatest country ever, and you'd get freedom. Wouldn't you like freedom, Justin?
Oh man. Listen, you can make an argument first of all that Canada's a little bit of a nanny state, right? We've definitely got some things going on over here that some people would argue are kind of against some freedoms. Um, and there's also like you can make some other good arguments, I guess, for America being pretty great. However, we have a mentality over here, a certain state of mind that we like. Um, a lot of people may not 100% love our healthcare system, but none of them are mad at the fact that they don't have to worry about money when it comes to being sick. There might be some wait time issues or even being able to get family doctor issues, and some people might have problems with that. When it comes to guns, we don't believe in it being a right. It is not a right. It's a privilege. And even the gun owners in Canada would agree that, like, yeah, it's a privilege. They might not agree with some of the regulations or the categorizations of certain weapons, right? Like, they may not like the idea that the AR-15 is listed as a dangerous weapon and you need a certain level of license to own one when it's arguably not all that dangerous. And fine, but none of them would say they should be that they feel entitled to own that weapon.
So Justin,
Yeah.
we've got our fourth final trash bag here. Do we have a name for this sucker, or
I
would
think
you like to do the honors?
Yeah, let's give the honors to our first guest today because they were here right before we went live. And I don't think we need to be punny about it because, quite frankly, he is just trash, and let's just call it Putin.
Yep. I'm gonna spell it like poo.
Sure.
Putin.
Yeah.
Oh man, my handwriting was terrible there. There you go, Putin. So we've
Um,
got GOP policy volume 1. We've got the tag bag. We've got the Putin piece of trash. And did we name this one?
well, Robin Webster super chat of $5 and just saying good job.
Then I can just say good job for the last one.
Sure. Sure.
Good job.
The chat also just like and I've been seeing it quite a bit through the whole live stream. Just something about dumping on Tesla or Tesla being trash or Tesla
Oh,
stock.
yeah. Tesla
But
stock would have been a good name for a trash bag.
yeah, that's okay. We can shelve that one because we're gonna do another trash talk next week.
Yeah, so made actually a pretty big chunk here. I feel like there's actually like a pretty decent chunk of trash missing from this little section. And then we got most of the trash that was over here that was in the biggest need, like the biggest danger of getting into the water over here. So did great. Thank you
Yeah.
guys. I mean, the time went by super fast. Thanks to everybody that helped out. That helped name the trash bags, that sent in super chats. All that money that you guys super chat is going to be going into making this stream better, a better viewing experience, going to be upgrading my infrastructure here. So it's very much super appreciated. And I'm going to be back here again next week, next Saturday. Justin, where can the good people find you if they just can't get enough and they want more?
Well, those would be the smartest of us. And if you want more of me, you can check me out tomorrow night. Actually, I'll be on Skeptic Haven. I'll be taking calls and answering questions. I'll the link there. I just put it in the chat. Yahooligans has put the link in the chat there for Skeptic Haven. So go hit that notification button and come check out the live stream tomorrow night.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
also
that's
make sure
awesome.
you hit
I
your
want to be there for sure. I'm gonna check that out. Justin, I gotta come and hang out with you at some point at Skeptic Haven. Sounds like a good time. And
yeah, for sure.
yeah,
For
thank
sure.
you
We would
so
love to
much
have you.
for helping to make sure that it all went smoothly today. We had a few technical issues, but we're working through them. I couldn't have done this without Justin, so thank you very much. I couldn't have done it without any of you guys watching. So tune in again next week. If you think about it, if you got any questions, if you got anything you want to argue with me about, feel free to call in and let's talk about it while I pick up some trash next week.
We got another super chat here before you
Oh,
walk off
nice.
though. We got Ian Chen official $7.99. I'm not going to waster this opportunity for a pun, but what a load of rubbish.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, that
Thanks,
was
Ian.
great. Ian might actually be the king of puns on this channel. Last week, we had Ivan giving Ian a run for his money, but I think Ian might be the undisputed pun king on this channel.
Yeah. So anyone who's out there watching in the future, as we will wrap this up as well. So there's one little chat that I've left here is we got Gregory who says, oh wait, no, that's not it. Hold on a sec. Where did I put that one? Oh yeah, no, that was right. Yeah, so I was thinking that we start a fundraiser to get Grayson to downtown Johannesburg to do a trash talk. If anyone wanted to Google trash in Johannesburg streets, which I did, and oh my goodness, yeah, you would
Oh,
need some
wow.
heavy equipment to clean that street up.
I need a team with me. Okay.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
I definitely do want to take Trash Talk international, especially for some of the countries that are like the biggest polluters of the oceans. But South Africa, I mean, yeah, I'd love to pick up trash in South Africa. It's a beautiful country. It deserves to stay beautiful, not get trashed out.
Yeah, and of course, like that would be anyone's dream, right? For trash talk to become a thing where like we've got Grayson flying around the planet, hitting some of the dirtiest, most trashiest parts of anyone's particular city. But we can start locally. We can start locally right now. So if anyone's in like, I happen to know that Grayson loves to get behind the wheel of his vehicle and just
True.
drive. So if you're in like the southern area, anywhere in the states, and you happen to know of a spot that like needs some trash talk, put it in the comments and let us know where that area is. And maybe the next time that Grayson is cruising
True.
America, he might
From
swing
here,
by and do a trash talk.
from here, I'm going to be joining Doc Dino up for a paleontological dig in Wyoming in a couple months. So I'm going to be heading from San Diego up to Wyoming, and
Okay.
I'm going to be doing trash talk along the way at some point. So
There you guys go. So
definitely, if you're in my path, let
yeah,
me know if there's
in
a
the comments,
trashy
let us
site.
know.
Yeah, like give me hints in the comments if there's a bunch of trash near your area. Let me know.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So I don't know, where are we at now? Are we out of here? Are we getting out of here?
I think we're winding it down, Justin. I've got to go, and I've got to take care of these 4 trash bags we got. These are some 4 pretty big trash bags. I feel like we made a decent chunk here. Had some interesting conversations. The time flew. So I would consider today to have been a massive successful episode 2. And yeah, until next week, until episode 3, I will see the rest of you guys. Oh, and I am currently working on my Dr. James Tour response video. That ended up being way longer than I thought. Like right now, it's approaching like an hour. I thought I would have it done this week, but it's just like there was just a lot to talk about. So I'm still working on that. It'll probably be out this next week.
All right, everyone. Like, subscribe, Patreon, do all the things. Check me out tomorrow night, Skeptic Haven. I'll be with Neil, the 604 Atheist, taking calls as well. And then, of course, next Saturday, Grayson Hawk, Trash Talk, and if he'll let me, hopefully me as well.
Yes, sir. See y'all then.
Bye, everyone.